Chapter 1 Martial Arts Scroll I have a system. Li Yun, let's break up. On the bed, Li Yun, who had just woken up, looked at the woman in front of him with a blank expression. No, you're very unwilling to accept this. That's reality. The past, I was unable to resist the marriage arranged by our parents. But now that I have come to the Tianwu sect, I must take control of my own life. Brother Liu has already promised me that as long as I follow him, he will provide me with resources and help me defy my innate nature in the future. I don't want to miss this opportunity. Also hope you won't hold a grudge or do anything rash because of this. People can't be compared to each other. If you offend Senior Brother Liu in the Tianwu sect, you won't have any place to stand and will only bring shame upon yourself. Think it over carefully and don't ever show your face in front of me again. After speaking, the woman turned and left with a sense of relief and a smile that seemed to welcome a bright future. What's the meaning? Getting dumped right after arriving, what a cliché start. But this world, the ancient heaven continent, wow, it's really vast and boundless. It must be at least 100 times larger than Earth in my previous life, right? Just as the woman was rambling on to herself, Li Yun, who had just transmigrated, had already digested the memories of his predecessor. This world is called the ancient heaven continent. It is vast, martial arts are flourishing, and powerful figures emerge in great numbers. The location he was in was called Tianwu sect, which belonged to Xuan Yue kingdom in the east of Tiangu continent. It was one of the 4 top martial arts sects in the Dongyun continent of Xuan Yue kingdom. The Tianwu sect is located on Tiandong Mountain in Dongyun continent. It has been established for 800 years, with dozens of sect leaders and more than 10 million disciples. It can be said that there are many powerful people and outstanding talents, even now, in September, after the Tianwu sect once again opened its doors to accept disciples. The total number of people in the entire Tianwu sect, from the sect leader to the disciples, and even the servants, actually exceeded 200,000. The entire Tianwu sect is practically comparable to a small city. This small town can be described as having enjoyed a long and prosperous history, with its glory never ceasing. Those who pass the test and become disciples of the Tianwu sect are all proud of it. But that's precisely why all the pressure was placed on the disciples of the Tianwu sect. Why? It's too curly. The Tianwu sect has been established for 800 years and has long since formed a fixed hierarchical system for its disciples, or rather, this is actually the system of various sects in the Xuan Yue kingdom. Today, this system from bottom to top consists of 4 levels: outer disciples, inner disciples, true disciples, and the highest level, sect followers. The rights and status of disciples at each of the 4 levels are different and can even be said to differ greatly from the most ordinary outer disciples with no special privileges to sect members who can represent the sect on the outside and even participate in sect decision-making. That is a gleaming pyramid, standing atop the tower. The sect members look down upon the outer disciples. Below, a sight akin to a god surveying the human world. Who wouldn't be agitated? Who doesn't want to achieve success and fame? Who doesn't want to return home in glory? Who wouldn't want to become a world-renowned martial arts master? Who wouldn't want to be the one golden carp that successfully leaps over the dragon gate among thousands of carp leaping over it? But just thinking about it is useless. Martial arts emphasizes talent. Talent encompasses factors such as physique, innate qualities, comprehension, and even spiritual roots, and almost every one of these is innate. You are born with something, or you are not. It is very difficult to change that later in life. This innate difference essentially determines one's future in the martial arts world. Among the many talents, spiritual roots are the rarest. Those born with spiritual roots become inner disciples of the heavenly martial sect and are taught innate martial arts. After a few years of cultivation, they become formal innate martial artists. Those without spiritual roots are classified into 9 grades of aptitude, based on their talent, with grade 9 being the lowest and grade 1 the highest, no matter how high their aptitude. These people can only start as outer disciples. Once they enter the sect, they can only cultivate acquired martial arts. They have to go through countless efforts and finally need a bit of luck to reverse their innate abilities. Successful people are few and far between. Out of 1,000, they are mostly people with 2nd grade or even 1st grade qualifications. Li Yun only has a 5th grade aptitude. Entering the Tianwu sect with a 5th grade aptitude is merely meeting the threshold for the sect to accept disciples. The probability of someone with such aptitude successfully revering their innate talent after several years is infinitely close to 0. If you can't defy your innate nature, you can't become an inner disciple. If you fail to become an inner disciple, the Tianwu sect cannot support you forever. There is a 3-year limit. Any outer disciple who fails to reverse their innate nature after 3 years in the Tianwu sect must participate in the grand competition every June. Those ranked outside the top 1,000 must leave the clan. Only those ranked within the top 1,000 can serve as stewards or similar positions within the sect, helping to handle miscellaneous matters and remaining temporarily. But it's not forever. It's only for 2 years. If you still can't reverse your innate nature after 2 years, I'm sorry, you'll have to leave too, then. Every September, a large number of new outer disciples are added, just like the graduation season in Li Yun's previous life. Every June, hordes of people leave dejectedly, while hordes of people arrive full of hope. From the day they start, unless they're stupid, almost everyone has to understand one thing. If you want to achieve something in martial arts, you have to work hard for these 3 years. It's too curly. In this kind of environment, who the hell would be in the mood for dating? That woman's name was Huang Yi, wasn't it? Tusk, it's good she's gone. Saves me the trouble of racking my brains trying to figure out how to get rid of her. Having finally made it to this vast world of martial arts, he didn't want to waste his trip, even with only a 5th grade aptitude and a very low probability of defying one's innate nature. He was determined to give it his all. He absolutely did not want to spend his entire life at the bottom of society like he had in his previous life. I took a deep breath. Li Yun's gaze quickly became clear and firm as she got up and walked towards the door. As an outer disciple, he was not entitled to a room to himself and lived in a dormitory-style room with 8 other people. These rows of large communal sleeping rooms together formed a large courtyard. Stepping out of the room, you see a flat yard, about the size of a basketball court with rows of pine trees planted along its edge. It was evening, and the sun was setting. The pale red sunlight slanted into the courtyard. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves, creating a picturesque scene reminiscent of the setting sun. Some outer disciples living in the same compound, each occupied a corner of the spacious courtyard, either sweating profusely as they diligently practiced martial arts, or holding a book and frowning as they pondered deeply. He had walked more than 10 meters away from the door, but no one greeted him. It was as if no one knew he existed. He was so engrossed in practicing martial arts that he didn't care about anyone else. Seeing this scene, Li Yun couldn't help but mutter to himself, "Damn, this is so tedious." Then, just like before the college entrance exam in his previous life, seeing everyone else working hard while he was just idling around, he inexplicably felt a strong sense of crisis. Everyone is working hard. If I don't work hard, damn it, I'll just be a salted fish for the rest of my life. Damn, no way, I have to go too. Lie. Yun felt increasingly uneasy as he thought about it. Suddenly, he turned around abruptly, intending to go back to his room to retrieve his copy of the basic stance training manual, which was distributed to every new outer disciple upon entry into the sect. The host's determination to pursue martial arts is unwavering. The martial arts cognition system is activated. Summarize the host's current understanding of martial arts. Martial arts understanding points plus 30 host witnesses others practicing martial arts. Cognition points plus 1 chapter 2. Initial skill point allocation. Progress is incredibly fast. Li Yun paused for a moment, then sprinted back into the house. It's only a dozen meters long. This caused Li Yun's entire face to turn bright red, and his breathing became labored. System, holy crap. Li Yun never expected that the legendary system cheat that was essential for transmigrators would arrive so easily. With the system, what is he afraid of? Climbing to the pinnacle of martial arts and becoming the supreme expert, aren't these just basic operations? Thinking of this, without a moment's hesitation, Li Yun immediately began studying the system. It was just a thought. A simple panel appeared before my eyes. Host, Li Yun. Age, 16. Qualification, rank 5. Identity, outer disciple of the 95th Academy of the Tianwu sect. Realm, acquired body tempering level 1. Martial arts, basic stance training beginner plus. Martial arts knowledge points, 31. Immediately, a surge of information rose in my mind. A few minutes passed in a daze. Li Yun suddenly understood the function of this system. Strength stems from cognition. The system's function is to allow Li Yun to gain cognition points through observation and practice, and then easily improve his martial arts skills by relying on these cognition points. He currently only possesses one martial arts skill, which is the basic stance training that was uniformly taught by the Tianwu sect when he entered the sect in September. This skill has no offensive power. It can only be used to temper the body and improve physical strength and attributes. Body tempering is the first of the 3 acquired realms and can be considered the most basic of the basics. There are 12 basic stances. Li Yun became an outer disciple of the Tianwu sect, but after only about a month, relying on the instruction of the outer sect martial arts steward and his own private practice, he only managed to master the 4th stance, the crouching tiger stance. Therefore, it can only be considered an entry-level skill. The first step is to get started, then progress to proficiency, minor success, mastery, great success, and perfection. To reach the initial stage, one must learn all 12 stances and be able to execute them smoothly and accurately. This is not easy. According to Li Baoshan, the martial arts steward of Ren 95 Academy, the fastest outer disciple of Tianwu sect to reach the initial stage of basic stance training, took 3 months. The person who achieves this record possesses a first-class qualification and is considered one of the best among first-class qualifications. Given Li Yun's 5th grade aptitude, it would probably take him 8 months or more to reach the initial stage of mastery, and even then, there's no guarantee that his basic stance training would be comparable to those recorded. But now we have a system. With the existing 31 knowledge points, one can directly improve basic stance training. Therefore, there is no need to say more. Li Yun's gaze fell on the plus sign next to basic stance training on the panel, and he clicked it decisively. Instantly, it felt like an invisible electric current surged through my body, leaving me slightly numb. Suddenly, a ray of light appeared in my mind. It was as if the space had become silent, and there was a figure exactly like him practicing basic stance training. Start with the first pile, then the second, the third, and even the 4th pile. It was exceptionally skillful, seemingly effortless, possessing a unique and mysterious charm. Li Yun was instantly captivated by what he saw. About 15 minutes later, the figure in my mind performed the basic stance technique up to the 7th stance, then suddenly trembled and disappeared completely. Li Yun then woke up as if from a deep dream. I discovered that the original 31 martial arts knowledge points on the panel had been cleared to 0. That's it. That's too fast. Li Yun was still somewhat unsatisfied, but she quickly closed her eyes to relive everything she had seen. He suddenly opened his eyes. He discovered that he didn't need to dwell on it at all. A clear and profound memory had already appeared in his mind. The profound mystery of the basic stance training from the 1st to the 7th stance. It was as if I had practiced diligently for 3 months. He could hardly believe it. If it were that simple, wouldn't cultivation be far too easy? He quickly got up. Taking advantage of the fact that no one was in the room, they began a real drill. At first, I was a little awkward, but within seconds, the memories in my mind came to me automatically, and everything went smoothly. As if by natural progression, he managed to cultivate the basic stance training to the 7th stance in one go. So smooth, so incredibly smooth, it's silky. This is true stance training. In comparison, although my predecessor had also practiced the 4th stance, it was barely a proper training, lacking spirit and riddled with mistakes. If he had continued training like that, forget about tempering his body, he would have ruined it sooner or later. My aptitude was already only average at 5th grade. If I ruin my body further, how will I ever be able to reverse my innate talent? Whispering sound. The system is awesome. At this point, Li Yun had begun to enjoy the taste. He wished that the enlightenment he had just experienced could have been even stronger, allowing him to directly achieve perfection in the basic stance training. It should be noted that the heavenly martial sect treats its outer disciples quite well. For disciples who excel in their cultivation, there may even be some resource incentives. If one can truly master the basic stance training within a year, and after confirmation and approval by the martial arts instructor, one can directly receive a reward of up to 30 qi and blood pills. For martial artists in the body tempering realm, the qi and blood pill is an excellent medicine, with miraculous effects in promoting body tempering. One pill is equivalent to at least half a month of hard training for others. Therefore, it is quite valuable. One piece costs 100 taels of silver, so 30 pieces would be equivalent to 3,000 taels. For an ordinary family of 4, the normal monthly expenses are only about 15 taels of silver. 3,000 taels of silver would be enough to live on for more than 10 years. Li Yun came from an ordinary background. Although his parents did some small business, their savings were at most a few hundred taels of silver. It was simply unrealistic for them to give him 3,000 taels of silver to buy qi and blood pills. But things are different now. With the help of this system, it seems that the reward of those 30 qi and blood pills is something to look forward to. However, all of this requires having sufficient knowledge of martial arts. Thinking of this, Li Yun couldn't hold back for even half a second. He wiped away his sweat and went out again. This time, he started wandering around the large courtyard outside the house, seemingly just strolling around, but his eyes were constantly darting around. He would approach and peek at anyone practicing martial arts in any corner. Observing others practice martial arts, knowledge point +1. Observing others practice martial arts, knowledge point +1. As he moved around, the system indeed reacted. Although the rate of increase is not very fast, only increasing a little bit every minute, it just keeps rising. Half an hour passed in just half an hour. His martial arts knowledge points then returned to 30. What does that mean? This means that he can soon have another wave of that kind of insight. Just thinking about it is so exciting. A slight smile crept onto his lips. But just then, a dissatisfied voice suddenly came from behind. Li Yun, what are you doing? Why don't you practice on your own? Why do you keep hanging around me? Are you trying to steal my stance training? Chapter 3 Basic Stance Training, Initial Success. Li Yun looked up at the sound and saw more than a dozen pairs of eyes filled with anger. The one who spoke was a young man with rosy lips and white teeth, who clearly came from an extraordinary background and had the air of a young master. His name is Gu Yunzhang. Like Li Yun, he is an outer disciple of the Ren 95 Academy. In a sense, he can be considered Li Yun's classmate. This family is said to be quite wealthy, and their qualifications were checked upon entry, reaching the highest rank of the first grade. He can be said to be one of the few people with the most outstanding talent in the Ren 95 Academy. Even the martial arts steward praised him and said that his future was limitless, and designated him as the chief of the Ren 95 Academy. In just 1 month, he had gathered a number of people around him who vaguely followed his lead. Gu Yunzhang is indeed formidable. With top-tier aptitude as a foundation and practicing the same basic stance training for a month, others are still stuck in the 4th or 5th stance. He had already cultivated to the 7th stage. He was clearly a cut above the rest. In the past 2 days, there have even been rumors in Ren 95 Academy that Gu Yunzhang is preparing to master all 12 stances in one go within 3 months, breaking the record for the fastest initial mastery of basic stance training by any outer disciple in history. To be honest, Li Yun admires people with such extraordinary talent. But this guy is clearly a bit stingy. Li Yun wasn't too keen on it, but he didn't intend to argue with him. Wouldn't it be better to spend that time wandering around and gathering some knowledge? I'm sorry, you may have misunderstood something. Misunderstanding. HMPH, do you believe that? Ask others, do they believe it? You've been packing around since just now. What are you up to? Do you really think no one can see through you? Gu Yunzhang snorted coldly, his face showing an expression that said, "You were just secretly learning from me." That is. Li Yun, don't treat others like fools. Your own aptitude is low, and you can't cultivate on your own, so you want to steal senior brother Gu's teachings. Do you think no one can see through this? Hurry up and come over to senior brother Gu to admit your mistake and apologize. Otherwise, we'll go and report to Deacon Chuanwu right now and let him decide. Then it won't be as simple as just apologizing. One of the lackeys shouted loudly, which immediately drew many echoes. One person after another started criticizing Li Yun. Seeing everyone criticizing Li Yun, Gu Yunzhang felt a sense of pride. This was the prestige of the chief. Regardless of whether Li Yun had secretly learned his stance training, if he said he had, then he definitely had. This feeling of satisfaction and pleasure made him feel extremely pleased. At that moment, he even felt a surge of ambition. If this is the case for just being the chief of the 95th Academy, what would it be like if one became the chief of the Ren-level Academy? The Ren class schools range from school number 1 to school number 100, totaling 100 schools, which can accommodate a full 10,000 disciples. If he could become the chief of the Ren class, wouldn't everyone have to listen to him and follow his lead? Anyone who dares to offend him can be ruined with just one word, leaving them with no face to remain in the Tianwu sect. Just thinking about it is awesome. However, to his surprise, Li Yun simply chuckled. Then you should go and tell Steward Chuanwu. A bunch of idiots. After saying that, he turned around and walked straight out of the courtyard. Gu Yunzhang and the others were immediately dumbfounded. Gu Yunzhang, in particular, turned completely red with anger. That bastard. A mere 5th grade aptitude, deliberately lingering around me, stealing my stance training, and still dares to be so arrogant. Let's go find the martial arts steward now and let him judge this matter. Yes, let's go. He doesn't work hard himself and even steals other people's stance training, making it impossible for senior brother Gu to concentrate on his cultivation. We must make the martial arts steward punish him. A group of outer disciples from the Ren 95 Academy, led by Gu Yunzhang, stormed off in a huff. Step out of the compound. Li Yun immediately saw a vast expanse of land, with rolling mountains and towering buildings stretching as far as the eye could see. Compared to the entire Tianwu sect, one person really seems insignificant. As he walked, he admired the magnificent scenery. Until we came to a small hill. he suddenly heard a series of cracking sounds, and when he looked closely, he saw two young men, a year or two older than him, fighting each other fiercely with their fists and feet. Both of them were incredibly skilled in punches and kicks. It was powerful and heavy, and extremely fast. The clash of fists and palms produced a sound like firecrackers, making onlookers' hearts pound. At this very moment, the system sent another notification. Observing others' exchanges, 2 new insights gained. Observing others' exchanges, 2 new insights gained. +2. +2. In a short while, his martial arts knowledge points increased by 30 points. Combined with what he had gained from observing in the academy, his martial arts knowledge points rose to 60 points. And it's still rising. It didn't take long before it broke 100. Li Yun thought to himself, "Wow, that's amazing." His eyes lit up. Judging from this situation, he has to issue it today. Just as the thought crossed their minds, the 2 young men who were sparring suddenly stopped. One of them walked angrily toward him. "Don't you know the rules? When you see others sparring, don't you know you should step aside? Instead, you're just standing there staring at them. Can you even understand this? A wise man doesn't fight a losing battle." So Li Yun immediately bowed and apologized without saying a word. Yes, I was wrong. Please forgive me, senior brothers. I am a newcomer to martial arts this year, and this is the first time I have ever seen such an intense and powerful martial arts sparring match. It is so shocking that I was momentarily stunned. I really didn't mean to spy on you. Seeing that Li Yun was so understanding, the young man who had just been angry softened considerably. So you're a new outer disciple. Then let it go, so as not to be accused of bullying a new disciple as senior disciples. But this is a one-time exception, understand? I know, I'm leaving now. Li Yun apologized repeatedly, then turned and drove away, though he was incredibly excited inside. My martial arts knowledge points have actually reached 123. This is so awesome, absolutely amazing. This also made him realize that observing more advanced martial arts techniques would provide him with more insights into martial arts. At this time, he also came to a deserted corner. After looking around and confirming that no one would likely pass by any time soon, he sat down under a tree. System, add points. Practice basic stance training. The next second, that mysterious figure appeared in my mind again, and I started practicing basic stance technique from the beginning once more. This time, the duration was significantly longer. The figure in my mind disappeared only after performing all 12 basic stances. An unprecedented sense of realization welled up within me. After Li Yun absorbed it, he was overjoyed. Seeing that there was no one around, he dared to put his hands and feet into action and began to practice basic stance training in this deserted corner. The first one, the second one, the 12th one. Surprisingly, it went incredibly smoothly, even quite effortlessly, and his understanding and comprehension of the basic stance training reached a new level. Chu Cheng opened the system panel and took a look. Basic stance training has clearly been initially completed, and a clear percentage of 3% has appeared afterward. Li Yun immediately smiled. I was incredibly excited. The initial mastery of basic stance training means that he can truly use this stance training to temper his physique. It also means that he has broken the record for the fastest initial mastery of basic stance training among all previous outer disciples in just 1 month. Chapter 4: What do I need to learn from you? Now that the basic stance training has been initially completed, there is no point in staying outside any longer. Li Yun decisively turned back. Soon they passed the hillside, where the 2 young men had sparred earlier. He was a little disappointed to find that the 2 young men who had been sparring earlier were gone. He had wanted to find another excuse to join them and learn something new, but he got nothing. We have no choice but to go back first. I just got back to the compound. He was stopped before he even entered the house. Li Yun, you're finally back. Come on, let's go see Steward Chuanwu. It's Gu Yunzhang again. This guy actually brought more than a dozen people and blocked his way again. Li Yun doesn't like to cause trouble, but he's not afraid of trouble either. Sects like the Tianwu sect, which are among the top 4 sects in Dongyun continent, are very particular about rules. No one should cause trouble. Disciples may spar with each other. But anyone who dares to attack without cause will be sent to the punishment hall in no time. Oh, it's you again. Are you just bored and looking for trouble? Why are you causing trouble for no reason? And who do you think you are? You think I have to go with you just because you tell me to go see the martial arts deacon? You're so shameless. With just a few words, Gu Yunzhang was so angry with Li Yun that his face turned red. You, how dare you speak to me like that? I am the chief of the Ren 95 Institute. Li Yun would have been better off not listening to these words, because upon hearing them, he laughed even more unrestrainedly. So what if I'm the chief? Does that mean I have to listen to you just because I'm the chief? Which rule says that? You. Gu Yunzhang was speechless again, not knowing how to retort. In fact, the position of chief of a hospital is merely a nominal one. There are no real rights at all. The rules don't even specify this. How can Gu Yunzhang possibly respond to this? There's no way to argue with them. Get out of the way. I'm tired. I'm going back to my room. Don't block my way, you good dog. Take this opportunity. Li Yun simply shoved Gu Yunzhang aside and walked straight to the door. Gu Yunzhang and the others were so angry that their eyes were blazing with fury, but they looked at each other, not knowing what to do. But at this very moment, a young man in his 20s walked into the compound. Upon seeing this person, Gu Yunzhang and the others were overjoyed and rushed towards the young man. Deacon Su, you've finally arrived. I sent Li Yun with us to see you, but he refused and was quite arrogant. Su Qing, the martial arts steward. Li Yun was also taken aback for a moment, but his mind raced, and he took the initiative to walk over. Here, there is only one martial arts deacon in each courtyard, just like a homeroom teacher in my previous life. He may not have much power, but it is quite easy for him to make trouble for someone. Li Yun wasn't a fool. He naturally didn't want to offend Su Qing unless absolutely necessary. Deacon Su, you've arrived. Su Qing nodded calmly. Li Yun, I asked Gu Yunzhang to come and call you. Why didn't you go? Deacon Su, I have been wronged. I went out for a walk and just came back when I was stopped by more than a dozen of them. They were all more aggressive than the last one. I thought they were just looking for an excuse to bully me. I didn't expect that you, Deacon Su, would actually come to see me. May I ask, Steward Su, what are your instructions to this disciple? Seeing Li Yun's wronged expression, Su Qing couldn't help but glare at Gu Yunzhang and the others. To be honest, this scene was quite something. Li Yun was all alone, while Gu Yunzhang was surrounded by more than a dozen people. Who wouldn't be scared? Gu Yunzhang, what's wrong with you? I just asked you to inform Li Yun. Why did you bring so many people? What kind of talk is this? All irrelevant people, disperse immediately and go do what you were doing. Don't let the patrol of the punishment hall find you and mistakenly think you're up to something and arrest you all. I can't plead for you then. Upon hearing this, everyone's expression changed immediately. Apart from Gu Yunzhang, the other dozen or so people scattered as if fleeing. In the blink of an eye, Gu Yunzhang became a lonely man. He was filled with hatred. Deacon Su, Li Yun is framing me. We didn't yell at him at all. Besides, he was the one who deliberately kept circling around me. They stole my stance training and are affecting my practice. He still refuses to admit it. Gu Yunzhang's eyes were red, and he felt more frustrated than ever before. If Li Yun isn't scolded today, he's lost all face. Who will take him seriously as the chief now? Su Qing, on the other hand, still has a good impression of Gu Yunzhang. This guy comes from a good family and has a wealthy background. What's rare is that he also has a first-class talent. He's a born martial arts genius. Such a person has a very high chance of overcoming their innate abilities and becoming an inner disciple within 3 years. Therefore, they asked Gu Yun to strive to become the chief of the Ren 95 Academy, hoping to motivate him. Seeing Gu Yunzhang looking so wronged, Li Yun couldn't help but feel a little soft-hearted and turned to look at him. Li Yun, you heard that too. How do you explain that? Li Yun had anticipated this. She smiled faintly. Steward Su, Gu Yunzhang's words are pure nonsense. I was tired from cultivation and was just walking around in the courtyard. I didn't say a word. How did that become disturbing other people's cultivation? As for stealing his stance training, that's even more. Sigh. Li Yun glanced at Gu Yunzhang, then suddenly walked to the side and without saying a word, immediately began to perform basic stance skill. Su Qing and Gu Yunzhang were immediately bewildered by Li Yun's action. I have absolutely no idea what Li Yun means by this. But as Li Yun put on his stances, he smoothly transitioned from the first stance to the second stance, and so on, one after another. Su Qing's expression changed, and it gave me a sudden jolt. He suddenly realized that Li Yun's stance training was perfect from the very first stance, and could be said to be no less than Gu Yunzhang's. Such standard stance training was quickly mastered, reaching the 7th stance and executing it smoothly, followed by the 8th stance. Impossible. Upon seeing this, Gu Yunzhang blurted out. But Li Yun ignored him completely, immersing himself in his own stance training. He found that as he practiced his stance training, some new insights emerged in his mind. The system actually responded. Practicing basic stance training, knowledge point +1. Practicing basic stance training, knowledge point +1. After completing all 12 tasks, I gained a total of 5 points in cognition points. Although it wasn't much, it was still a tangible gain. This reassured Li Yun that if he couldn't find anyone to learn from in the future, he wouldn't be completely without any knowledge points if he cultivated on his own. But at that moment, he ignored all of that. After the 12 stakes were completed, he turned to look at Gu Yunzhang. Gu Yunzhang, my basic stance training is already quite proficient, while you haven't even completed the 7th stance yet. Tell me, what am I supposed to learn from you? You think you're so great just because you stole my knowledge? Or are you secretly copying your arrogant, swaggering manner with your lackeys? Chapter 5, Su Qing's Shock and Admiration. Gu Yunzhang's face turned completely red, his cheeks burning like fire. While others have already mastered the basic stance training, I'm still stuck in the 7th stance, yet I suspect others of stealing my techniques. He felt an unprecedented sense of embarrassment. I really don't know how to respond. Su Qing ignored him, glared at Gu Yunzhang, and then grabbed Li Yun with a look of delight. You've already achieved a basic level of mastery in stance training. Only 1 month. Genius, genius. I misjudged you before. Come on, come with me now. An excited Su Qing grabbed Li Yun and started to walk out without saying a word. Li Yun was a little confused. He quickly asked, Deacon Su, where are we going? Su Qing suddenly remembered something, stopped, and slapped his forehead hard. Blame me. This is my fault. When you first started, I thought no one could break the record for the fastest initial mastery of basic stance training, so I didn't explain it to you clearly. In fact, there are rules in the outer sect. There are rewards for breaking the record for the fastest initial mastery of basic stance training, or for achieving initial mastery of basic stance training within 3 months. You've not only achieved initial success within 3 months, but you've also broken the record. So you'll not only receive a reward, but a double one. I'll take you to the outer sect elders now to collect your reward. Li Yun's eyes lit up instantly. Could there really be such a good thing? What else is there to say? With rewards to be won, who would bother arguing with Gu Yun? That's such a waste of time. Immediately, he followed Su Qing and left in a hurry. As Gu Yunzhang watched the two figures hurriedly depart, his face gradually darkened, becoming extremely gloomy. Asshole. That damned Li Yun, what makes him so special? It's just basic stance training. I refuse to believe that I, with my first-grade aptitude, can really lose to you with your fifth-grade aptitude. Just you wait, I'll make you pay sooner or later. Since arriving at Tianwu sect, relying on his first-grade aptitude and Su Qing's personal appointment of him as the chief of Ren 95 Academy, who dares not to look up to him? But today, Li Yun's blow made him feel humiliated like never before. Hatred instantly turned into a raging fire in my heart. He gritted his teeth and vowed to take revenge on Li Yun one day. The residence of Elder Zhang, Cang of the Outer Sect. What did you say? 1 month into the course, basic stance training has been initially mastered. Has the record for the fastest initial mastery of basic stance training among all previous outer disciples been broken? The one who broke this record was a disciple with only a 5th-grade aptitude. Zhang Kong looked at Su Qing, who was visibly excited. No matter how he looked at it, he felt that Su Qing was joking with him. Su Qing, do you think you can just make up a story to joke with me because you have a good temper? You've really gotten bold. Believe it or not, I can throw you out right now, end your 2-year term as a steward early, and make you pack your bags and get out of the Tianwu sect overnight. Su Qing, it's true, Elder, please believe me. That disciple's name is Li Yun, and I've brought him to you. I just witnessed with my own eyes that he had achieved initial success in basic stance training. This disciple would never dare to joke with you. Yeah. Seeing Su Qing's determined look, Zhang Kong became somewhat skeptical. Then bring the person in so I can take a look. Yes. After receiving Zhang Kong's permission, Su Qing rushed out. At this time, Li Yun stood outside Zhang Kong's residence, casually surveying his surroundings. All I can say is that an elder is an elder. Even if someone is just an outer sect elder, they still hold a high position and great power for the outer sect disciples. Their residence was a large mansion of at least 5,000 square meters. Above the main gate hangs a gilded plaque with the 3 large characters, Cang Yun residence, which are particularly bold and exude a majestic and imposing aura. Before they knew it, they had caught Li Yun's attention. I stared at it for a little while. The system suddenly displayed a series of prompts. Observe the true meaning of martial arts, knowledge points plus 30. Observe the true meaning of martial arts, knowledge points plus 30. Observe the true meaning of martial arts, knowledge points plus 30. It only takes 10 seconds. The number of cognitive points actually exceeded 200. Li Yun was so frightened that he was speechless for a moment, but then his face lit up with joy. Holy crap. This plaque contains the true essence of martial arts. Can one obtain a great deal of martial arts essence by observing it? If I stand here for 2 hours, wouldn't that be? Li Yun felt like he was about to strike it rich. As long as he has enough knowledge, mastering the basic stance training is nothing. He can perfect it tonight. He was initially annoyed that Su Qing had brought him here, and then left him alone outside. It's gone now. All the unpleasantness vanished as my understanding skyrocketed. He quickly focused his attention, staring intently at the plaque above the gate, his expression as if he wanted to glare the 3 characters of Cang Yun residence down. Su Qing, who rushed out in a hurry, happened to see this scene and couldn't help but laugh at his expression. The way you look at me makes me think you can understand the innate meaning hidden in the plaque. Stop looking. You haven't reached that level yet. Even if you bulge your eyes out, you still won't understand. Li Yun came to his senses and looked at Su Qing, wanting to ask him a question. There were 3 words he didn't know whether he should say or not. He had just discovered that the name, Cang Yunju, could bring him a lot of insights, and you came out. Can't you come later? Let's go. Don't just stand there. Elder Zhang Kong wants to see you. Come inside with me quickly. All right. Li Yun was helpless, but he had no choice but to follow Su Qing inside. Throughout the journey, Su Qing kept giving Li Yun instructions. Do your best. Be humble. Elder Zhang Kong is in charge of martial arts transmission among the outer sect elders. He can decide the fate of any outer sect disciple with a single word. However, if you can gain his favor, you are guaranteed to benefit immensely in the future. Li Yun naturally nodded repeatedly. He understood a principle. People can sometimes show off, and even be arrogant, but they can't be ignorant of when to advance or retreat. Su Qing may have been somewhat indifferent to him before, and even had a hint of wanting to stand up for Gu Yun, whom he favored, but now he was genuinely trying to introduce him to the elder. Therefore, there is absolutely no need to dwell on that previous minor misunderstanding. Yes, I understand. Thank you for your guidance, Steward Su. No matter what achievements I make in martial arts in the future, I will never forget your kindness today. Li Yun said solemnly. Upon hearing this, Su Qing's spirits lifted, and his gaze towards Li Yun suddenly held a hint of admiration. Previously, he believed that Gu Yunzhang had the talent of a first-class talent and a limitless future, so he gave him a lot of care, both openly and secretly. But Gu Yunzhang never said such a thing. Gu Yunzhang took his care for granted, and nothing more. Whether Li Yun's words were sincere or not, no one knows, but at least he made his stance clear. Compared to Gu Yun, it's obvious that the latter is far superior. Chapter 6. Elders praise Su Qing's gift. You're the disciple Su Qing mentioned, who has already mastered the basic stance training. Greetings, Elder. This is Li Yun, disciple of the Ren 95th Academy. Li Yun, not Gu Yunzhang nor Zhang Chu. Zhang Kong's eyes flashed. I remember that Ren 95 Academy has one person with first-grade aptitude and one person with top-grade second-grade aptitude, but you're not among them. Elder, when I first entered the sect, my aptitude was grade 5. A 5th-grade aptitude, huh? You can master basic stance training within a month with only a 5th-grade aptitude. Are you trying to tell me that you made a mistake in the initial qualification test? No, Elder, you've misunderstood. Disciple, alas, Disciple can't really explain the reason either, but when Disciple was comprehending the basic stance training, it did go a little more smoothly. Perhaps it was luck. Luck. Huh. Zhang Kong chuckled to himself. If luck alone can enable someone with a 5th-grade aptitude to master basic stance training within a month, breaking the record for the fastest mastery of basic stance training among all outer disciples of the heavenly martial sect, then your luck is truly extraordinary. All right, I'm not going to waste my breath on you. Show me how to do it. Yes. Li Yun wasn't nervous at all. Since he had come with Su Qing, he was bound to go through this. He took a few steps back. After finding a suitable spot, we immediately began practicing the basic stance training. From the first pile to the 12th pile, every single task went smoothly, without the slightest pause. Perhaps in Zhang Kong's eyes, it was still a bit rough around the edges and not quite ready to be completed in one go, but a preliminary work is a preliminary work. There was absolutely no fabrication. What's remarkable is that Li Yun's 12 basic stances were all perfect, with almost no flaws. If you continue practicing at this pace, you can reach the proficiency level in at most a month, and it is very likely that you will reach the perfection level within a year. Could it really be a hidden gem? Or was there really a problem with the initial aptitude test? While Zhang Kong was pleasantly surprised, he couldn't help but secretly harbor doubts. Of course, he couldn't possibly make Li Yun retest his qualifications just because of this suspicion. You should know that he is not the only outer sect elder. He wasn't the one in charge of the qualification testing either. After only a month of training, Suddenly making Li Yun undergo another qualification test would be a slap in the face to others. He wouldn't do anything that would offend people. Most importantly, if the qualification test really does go wrong on Li Yun's side, then things could get really messed up. This year, a total of 40,000 new outer disciples were recruited, and they all need to be re-examined. This will probably alarm the sect's higher-ups. If one blow comes down, a whole bunch of people will suffer. Li Yun is indeed quite extraordinary and cannot be ignored. So, after considering it calmly for a while, Zhang Kong decided to keep quiet and observe the situation from the sidelines for the time being. Okay, very good. Being able to master the basic stance training within a month proves that you do have some talent and are hardworking enough. The sect will not be stingy with rewards for a disciple like you. Zhang Kong smiled. He then took out a white jade porcelain bottle. Here are 2 qi and blood pills. One is a reward for your initial success in stance training within 3 months, and the other is a reward for breaking the record. Thank you, Elder. Li Yun accepted the white jade porcelain bottle with delight and didn't forget to express her gratitude to Zhang Kong. Zhang Kong nodded in satisfaction. But don't be arrogant. Basic stance training is only the foundation of martial arts. There is still a long way to go. I hope you will continue to persevere and practice diligently. I'm making you a promise here. If you can master the basic stance training within half a month, you can come directly to me without going through Su Qing. At that time, I will not only give you 2 qi and blood pills as a reward, but I can also teach you a martial art as an exception. This instruction is not included in the selection quota for the armory. It is a private instruction from me. These words were spoken. Both Su Qing and Li Yun were utterly shocked. Especially Su Qing. He had also come from the ranks of outer disciples, so he knew all too well what the outer disciples' experiences were like. All outer disciples must begin practicing basic stance training upon entering the sect. No one is exempt. Only when one has reached a minor level of proficiency in basic stance training will one be allowed to enter the armory to choose a real martial art. How can an ordinary person achieve even a minor mastery of stance training in a short period of time? Therefore, the first year is basically spent practicing stance training diligently. Those with slightly less talent may have to endure it for a year and a half or even 2 years. This means that with the 3-year period remaining, there is not much time left to reverse one's innate nature. If Li Yun just needs to work a little harder and master the stance training within half a month, he may be able to acquire martial arts skills ahead of schedule. What's this called? This is what it means to be 1 step ahead. In martial arts training, if you're fast at 1 step, you'll be fast at every step. Within 3 years, Li Yunjin may successfully reverse her innate abilities and become an inner disciple, like a carp leaping over the dragon gate. More importantly, since the martial arts skills were not included in the selection quota of the armory, they were taught privately by Zhang Kong. This meant that Zhang Kong had a mentor-student relationship with Li Yun. If this got out, anyone who wanted to harm or suppress Li Yun would have to think twice. In short, the benefits are enormous. Even Su Qing was filled with envy. If he had had such an opportunity when he first entered the sect, he might be an inner disciple now. Why did he have to endure 3 years of hardship to barely become a steward, and why is the term of stewardship only 2 years? This is already the 2nd year. If he can't break through again, he will have no choice but to leave the heavenly martial sect. Li Yun, you must seize this opportunity. Listen to me. It's incredibly difficult for someone without spiritual roots to reverse their innate abilities through acquired means. If you can truly gain Elder Zhang Kong's favor and guidance, it will save you from many detours. After leaving Zhang Kong's residence, Su Qing solemnly instructed Li Yun again, and judging from his earnest expression, he genuinely hoped that Li Yun could obtain this opportunity. He then took Li Yun to his own residence. As a martial arts steward, you will have your own independent residence in the outer sect. It may not be big, but it is enough to meet your needs for sleeping, living, and storing some personal belongings. After returning to his residence, Su Qing rummaged through his belongings and pulled out a yellowed book from a wooden box. As a martial arts steward, I am not qualified to teach you other martial arts in private. However, I have a manual on stance training that I bought from an inner disciple for a hefty sum back then. I'll give it to you. I didn't mean anything by it. I just want to help you as much as possible. Remember, don't tell anyone. Li Yun took the notebook, flipped through it, and his eyes immediately lit up. Because the system's reaction was quite strong, Chapter 7 intersect Senior Sister, Zhang Ryuhan. Notes on observing stance training, 2 new points learned. Notes on observing stance training, 2 new points learned. 3 days have passed in the blink of an eye. Li Yun sat in a quiet corner outside the Ren 95 courtyard, holding the standing meditation notebook given to him by Su Qing, while looking at the system panel. Host, Li Yun. Age, 16. Qualification, rank 5. Identity, outer disciple of the 95th Academy of the Tianwu sect. Realm, acquired body tempering level 1. Martial arts, basic stance training, proficient 95%. Martial arts knowledge points, 36. In just 3 days, or more precisely, after returning from Su Qing's residence that night, his basic stance training directly entered the proficient stage based on the insights gained from observing the plaque of Cang Yun residence. If things really go as agreed, he can go directly to Cang Yun residence to fulfill his promise to Zhang Kong the next morning. However, he wasn't that stupid. With only a 5th grade aptitude and no special background, it's already astonishing that he mastered the basic stance training in just 1 month, breaking the record for the fastest progress in history. Overnight, he became proficient again. Isn't it obvious that something's fishy going on? So he decided to take it easy for now. However, he did not expect that, after mastering the basic stance training, the efficiency of gaining knowledge points by observing others practicing martial arts in the Ren 95 Academy would be greatly reduced. Adding it little by little is fine. Observing for half an hour doesn't even add 5 points, which is less than what you gain from practicing on your own. After studying the system, he realized that it was because his classmates from Ren 95 were too far behind him to offer much help. To gain more insights, one should try to find things at a higher level than oneself to observe. So he simply left the Ren 95 Institute and found a quiet corner to study the notebook Su Qing had given him. It must be said that this manual on stance training is indeed quite good. Upon careful observation, it can bring him approximately 2 cognitive points per minute. 3 days later, with the help of this manual of stance training, I have almost filled up the proficiency level of the advanced stage. This is still because there are many people around and I also need to eat and sleep, so I can't keep observing 24 hours a day. Otherwise, at this rate, he would have already reached the lesser mastery level. Even so, he was quite satisfied. He planned to relax for another 2 days, about 5 days, before going to Cang Yun residence to meet Zhang Kong. Afternoon. Having studied the stance training notes for nearly 4 hours and accumulated over 400 knowledge points once again, Li Yun began practicing again. Clear your mind of preconceived notions and reflect upon them carefully. Basic stance training has officially entered the minor stage of mastery, and the proficiency level has been pushed to 2%. Having reached a certain level of proficiency, his understanding of basic stance training became even more profound. They immediately began to put their skills to use. From the 1st pile to the 12th pile, it was clearly done in one go, without any sense of awkwardness. The moment they stand on the ground and strike a pose, an indescribable charm emanates from them. It felt as if a root was beneath my feet, connecting me to the earth, and some kind of energy flowed into my body from the earth. The body's energy surged, and the bones vibrated. Suddenly, a series of crisp popping sounds rang out. Li Yun was stunned for a moment, then seemed to remember something and hurriedly opened the system panel again. Upon seeing it, he was overjoyed. His cultivation level, which was originally marked as the first level of body tempering, actually advanced by 1 level, reaching the 2nd level of body tempering. Li Yun exclaimed, "Wow! It's not that the 2nd level of body tempering is so powerful. In fact, the 2nd level of body tempering is just a slight increase in strength and a more robust physique compared to the 1st level. But this is real progress. Moreover, this progress was achieved without taking any elixirs. It was genuine and tangible. It brought a very comfortable feeling. This made him wonder if he should simply take the 2 qi and blood pills that Zhang Kong had rewarded him with, and further enhance his cultivation level. But he stopped himself in the blink of an eye. It wasn't that he didn't want to improve his cultivation level, but rather that he didn't want to waste the qi and blood pills. At his current efficiency, he will soon be able to master the basic stance training. The effects of consuming qi and blood pills during a fully mastered basic stance training are completely different from those during a lesser, mastered basic stance training. The former can bring out almost 100% of the medicinal effects of the qi and blood pill, while the latter can only absorb up to 50%, with the remaining 50% dissipating through the pores. Using 2 of them is equivalent to wasting more than 1. 1 qi and blood pill is worth 100 taels of silver. He wasn't the kind of rich man who could treat money like dirt and squander 100 taels of silver like copper coins. Body tempering level 2, and your basic stance training has actually reached a minor success. Just as Li Yun was lamenting why he couldn't transmigrate into a rich family, a surprised voice suddenly rang out. Li Yun was startled and quickly turned around. Not far away, just 10 meters away, a woman in white appeared out of nowhere. She looks to be at most 23 or 24 years old. At first glance, the first impression is one of amazement. This woman was tall and curvaceous, and possessed a face that even a beauty filter couldn't match in her past life. She's a stunningly beautiful woman. Moreover, she has an excellent temperament. Just standing there, she naturally exudes a very lively and otherworldly aura. "May I ask who you are?" Li Yun dared not be negligent. He knew that this person was probably a master, otherwise he could not have appeared so quietly. "My name is Zhang Ryuhan, and I come from the inner sect, Vermilion Bird Academy." Li Yun was filled with respect. "So it is senior sister Zhang from the inner sect. I am an outer sect disciple from Ren 95 Academy. I greet senior sister Zhang." Li Yun wasn't the type to be easily swayed by beautiful women, much less to presumptuously flirt with an inner disciple just because she was pretty. To become an inner disciple is essentially to be a master of innate level. People of this caliber, if you provoke them even slightly, a single poke of their finger would be enough to keep them bedridden for half a year. Ren 95 Institute. What a coincidence. So, you and my younger brother Zhang Chu were classmates. A glint flashed in Zhang Ryuhan's eyes. A wave of emotion washed over me. Her younger brother, Zhang Chu, only joined the family this year. As his older sister, she naturally had to come and take a look to prevent some ignorant people from bullying her brother. She had just returned today after taking on a sect mission, and she didn't even have time to submit the mission before coming here. I never expected that it would be such a coincidence that I would first run into a fellow disciple of my younger brother, and this fellow disciple seemed to be quite extraordinary. You absolutely have to befriend someone like that for your younger brother. Li Yun was also stunned. Senior sister, Zhang is actually Zhang Chu's sister. What a coincidence. Zhang Ryuhan smiled, a beautiful smile like a flower. It's really a coincidence. Even I didn't expect it. How about this, if you have some free time, could you please go and find Zhang Chu for me? I'll take you to the inner sect, how about that? Chapter 8. Zhang Chu's shock. Such a good thing actually happened. Upon hearing that he could visit the inner sect, Li Yun's eyes lit up immediately. It is important to know that the Tianwu sect has strict rules. Although disciples are not prohibited from moving around at will, places like the inner sect and Cang Yun residence cannot be visited without someone to guide them. He didn't know why Zhang Ruohan had offered to take him to the inner sect, but it was exactly what he wanted. You should know that the inner sect is full of innate talents. There's a real chance he'll gain a huge amount of knowledge points, so we absolutely can't miss it. All right, I'll go find Zhang Chu for senior sister Zhang right now. Immediately. Li Yun hurriedly returned to Ren 95 Institute, searched around, and finally found Zhang Chu in his dormitory and called him out. Zhang Chu was immediately delighted to hear that it was his sister who was looking for him. But when he heard that his sister was going to take him and Li Yun to the inner sect, he was stunned and looked at Li Yun with suspicion. That's not right. Why did my sister send you to find me instead of coming herself? And why did she take you to the inner sect? Li Yun, you bastard, you didn't do anything to my sister, did you? No one knows what came to Zhang Chu's mind, but as he was talking, he suddenly grabbed Li Yun by the collar, his eyes blazing with anger. Li Yun, you suspect I did something to your sister. Please, your sister is an inner disciple, and I'm an outer disciple. What would I do to your sister? Would I be courting death? Zhang Chu was immediately stunned. That's true, but there's no reason for it. You're not a relative of mine, and I don't know you well. Why should my sister take you to the inner sect? I don't know about that. If you want to know, you can ask your sister yourself. Anyway, I'm just a nobody in the outer sect. I dare not disobey the orders of my inner sect senior sister. HMPH, then let's go. I want to ask my sister why she's taking you along. He probably couldn't win an argument with Li Yun. Zhang Chu angrily shook off his hand and hurriedly walked out. Li Yun chuckled and quickly followed. It might seem a bit shameless, but for the sake of understanding, who cares? Soon, Li Yun and his companion returned to the place where they had met Zhang Ruohan and saw her there. Sister, what brings you here? Why didn't you come to me yourself when you arrived? You sent Li Yun instead, and you even wanted to take him to the inner sect. What's going on here? Zhang Chu is also an impatient person. Upon seeing Zhang Ruohan, he immediately launched into a barrage of questions. Zhang Ruohan's face hardened, and she smacked Zhang Chu on the head. Ouch, sis, what are you doing? That hurts. Does it hurt? That's good. You brat, it's only been a few days since I last had a beating, and your skin's already loose. Who gave you permission to talk to me like that? Still trying to talk back? If you talk back again, don't blame me for not giving you face in front of your classmates. I'll beat you up right now. Upon hearing this, Zhang Chu quickly covered his mouth. He shook his head repeatedly. It's clear that he's genuinely afraid of his older sister, Zhang Ruohan. Blood ties always suppress biological siblings, no matter where they go. Li Yun smiled to himself and stepped forward. Senior sister Zhang, I've brought the person to you. If you have no further instructions, I'll be going back now. Although I really want to join the inner sect, I still have to put on an act, right? In addition, he also wanted to test why Zhang Ruohan wanted to send him to the inner sect. Hey, wait a minute. It's a rare and fortunate encounter, and it's also a coincidence that you and my brother are both outer disciples of the Ren 95 Academy. My younger brother, Zhang Chu, is not good with words and doesn't know how to get along with people. As his older sister, I have a responsibility to help him get along with his fellow disciples. So, if you have some free time, I'd like to invite you to take a walk around the inner sect together. What do you think? Understood. Li Yun suddenly realized what was going on. He probably guessed Zhang Ruohan's intention. Zhang Ruohan just happened to discover that his basic stance training had reached a minor level and even the second level of body tempering. She probably mistakenly thought he was some kind of exceptionally talented person. He then wanted to take this opportunity to win him over. Li Yun said he was not offended by this. People are meant to be valued only after they have demonstrated their worth. Why would a normal person inexplicably show kindness to someone whose background and value they don't understand? Now that he has proven his value in Zhang Ruohan's eyes, it's only natural that Zhang Ruohan wants to show him kindness. Since senior sister Zhang invited me, I dared not refuse. So I shamelessly took advantage of senior sister Zhang's blessing to be able to come to the inner sect ahead of time and broaden my horizons. HMPH, bringing it up in advance. Zhang Chu, who was already somewhat displeased to see Li Yun chatting and laughing with his sister, couldn't help but feel annoyed when Li Yun started talking about getting an early look at the inner sect. You think you can take me on? With a rank of 5, you're almost at the bottom of Ren 95 Academy. If you miss today, you'll probably never have the chance to open your eyes to the inner sect in your lifetime. Li Yun wasn't angry. He turned to look at Zhang Chu and smiled faintly. Brother Zhang Chu, a person still needs to have some dreams, otherwise what's the difference between them and a salted fish? You. Zhang Chu was furious, but Zhang Ruohan burst out laughing. I didn't realize he was so humorous, and most importantly, confident. As he spoke, Zhang Ruohan gave Zhang Chu's head another hard tap. See, learn from this. What's the point of practicing martial arts if you don't have a calm and confident demeanor? And you seem to underestimate Li Yun. HMPH, you brat. If I weren't your own sister, I would have kicked you down the mountain right now. We've both been practicing for a month, and we've both been doing basic stance training. I'm asking you, what stance have you reached now? Upon hearing this, Zhang Chu proudly replied, the 6th task is almost complete. We can try the 7th task tomorrow. In Ren 95 Academy, apart from Gu Yunzhang, who has a first-grade aptitude, I rank 2nd. Zhang Ruohan immediately smiled. He laughed with disdain. You're really something else. Let me tell you, I don't know which case Gu Yun got into, and I don't want to know, but do you know what level Li Yun has reached? He. Zhang Chu glanced at Li Yun with some surprise and suspicion, but immediately said disdainfully, how would I know what stage he's at? He's at most the 4th stage. Just a couple of days ago, he was hanging around Gu Yunzhang, supposedly trying to steal Gu Yunzhang's stance training. They've all complained to the martial arts deacon. Bang! As soon as she finished speaking, Zhang Ruohan struck Zhang Chu on the forehead with another finger. This time, the blows were even harder. Zhang Chu immediately clutched his head, crouching down in pain, and cried out, his face flushed. Sis, why did you hit me again? I didn't say anything wrong. You're still not wrong. Are you blind? Let me tell you, Li Yun's basic stance training has already reached a minor level of mastery. With your rudimentary 6th skill that you haven't even mastered yet, how dare you act all high and mighty in front of Li Yun? Upon hearing this, Zhang Chu jumped up from the ground. He shouted and yelled. The intense shock made him forget the pain. What? Basic stance training has been partially mastered. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Sis, you're lying to me. Lying to you. HMPH, let me tell you, I saw it with my own eyes. Zhang Ruohan took a sudden step forward. Suddenly, a powerful aura erupted and enveloped Zhang Chu. Zhang Chu, listen to me carefully. Be more humble in front of your fellow disciples from now on. If I see you showing off again, I won't let you off the hook. Besides, you have nothing to brag about. You only have a 2nd-grade aptitude. If you're not humble and don't work hard, you might not even be able to enter the inner sect. Zhang Chu was completely stunned. Chapter 9. 300 points per second, cognition points soar. Mountains upon mountains, valleys upon valleys. The Tianwu sect is located on Tiandong Mountain, a majestic mountain range resembling a dragon coiled and a tiger crouching, naturally possessing an awe-inspiring aura of heaven and earth. The inner gate is located in 4 large valleys. They represent the 4 major inner sect courtyards: Azure Dragon, White Tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise. Zhang Ruohan led Li Yun and Zhang Chu for nearly an hour before arriving at the entrance of the vermilion bird courtyard. The so-called gate was actually the entrance to a huge valley. At the entrance stands a tall stone tablet, which not only features a statue of the sacred beast vermilion bird flying in the sky with flames, but also has 3 large characters carved in a flamboyant style. Vermilion Bird Academy. Observe the stone tablet at the entrance of Suzaku Temple. Knowledge points plus 100. Observe the stone tablet at the entrance of Suzaku Temple. Knowledge points plus 100. The moment I paused at the entrance, the system notifications then started flashing wildly. Between each breath, this directly earned Li Yun 300 knowledge points. That efficiency almost made Li Yun shout with excitement. That's roughly 300 cognitive points per second. If he could, he would love to bring his bedding and live as a security guard at the entrance of Suzakuyuan Temple. Li Yun thought to himself, this trip to the inner sect was absolutely the right decision. Arrive. Walk through this gate, and you'll enter the Vermilion Bird courtyard. Before you go in, I have to remind you that, although I brought you here, the Vermilion Bird courtyard is mostly populated by women, so please try not to look around aimlessly, understand? Zhang Ruohan turned around and solemnly reminded Li Yun and Zhang Chu. Zhang Chu nodded quickly. Okay, sis, I won't look around. You should take us inside now. Li Yun's heart skipped a beat. He quickly stepped forward and said, I understand. Besides that, are there any other taboos? Zhang Ruohan glanced at the impatient Zhang Chu and gave him another flick on the forehead. Did you see that? Look how cautious and steady Li Yun is. Look at you again. Seriously, if you weren't my brother, I'd want to. Now that you know, you just want to kick me off the mountain, right? Zhang Chu looked displeased. Who is the real younger brother? He felt that ever since his sister met that bastard Li Yun, her attention had been entirely focused on him. Throughout the journey, he proactively introduced Li Yun to some of the scenery and important places along the way, and occasionally mentioned some tips for practicing basic stance training. That warms. Unbelievable. If his sister hadn't already had a fiancé, he would have suspected that she had fallen for Li Yun. You dare talk back, you want a beating. Zhang Ruohan glared at him, making a move as if to hit him. Zhang Chu quickly dodged and hid behind Li Yun. No, I won't say anything more. I won't talk back, okay? Li Yun suddenly felt a little embarrassed. What does steady mean? What's the caution? That's all nonsense. He just wants to buy himself some time and gain more insights. After all, the opportunity to gain 300 cognitive points in 1 second is extremely rare. Once inside the Vermilion Bird courtyard, as Zhang Ruohan warned, one obviously cannot wander around aimlessly, otherwise the opportunity to gain knowledge points may not be as good as he imagined. We must seize this opportunity. Senior sister Zhang Chu didn't mean it that way. After all, as an outer disciple, he must have longed to be an inner disciple. If you have the chance to go in and see for yourself and broaden your horizons, it's only natural to be a little anxious. Yes, Li Yun is right. After Li Yun spoke, Zhang Ruohan's expression softened a bit, and she quickly added, I was just in a hurry. And also, sis, you can't hit me anymore. Now that I've joined the Heavenly Martial Sect, I'm a disciple of the Heavenly Martial Sect. You can't keep hitting me like you did when we were kids. If you keep hitting me like this, I'll lose face. Upon hearing this, Zhang Ruohan immediately flew into a rage, her eyes blazing as she prepared to attack Zhang Chu again. Upon seeing this, Li Yun naturally rushed to stop him. But inside, he was so happy he almost laughed out loud. And that's how it got delayed. The number of knowledge points on the panel has already exceeded 20,000 and is heading towards 30,000. There is a certain point of view. He was confident that once he returned, he would immediately master or even achieve great success, in the basic stance training. If I'm lucky and gain more, it's not impossible to complete the basic stance training today. On the way, Zhang Ruhan told him some very important news. Once you have mastered the basic stance training, you can try to comprehend the true meaning of martial arts contained within it. That thing, very few disciples of the heavenly martial sect throughout the ages have been able to comprehend. What is certain is that everyone who comprehends it achieves considerable success in the body tempering realm, and in the subsequent power refining realm, they cultivate even more profound internal energy than others. Thus, one step stronger leads to continuous strength. In the later true Qi realm, because of the abundance of true Qi, it was easier for him to reverse his innate nature than others. However, at that moment, an untimely voice suddenly rang out. "Li Yun, what are you doing here?" At this moment, several people suddenly walked out of the gate of the Vermilion Bird Academy. The leader was a tall, handsome young man with a strong sense of arrogance between his brows. Huang Yi, the childhood sweetheart and fiancée of the original, followed behind the young man with her head down and eyes downcast. However, when she saw Li Yun for the first time, she was so excited that she almost jumped up, and even her voice became sharp. Huang Yi rushed over. "Li Yun, what are you doing? Who told you I came to the Vermilion Bird Courtyard? What are you doing here? You have some nerve. This is a sacred inner sect area. How dare an outer sect disciple like you come here? Hurry up and leave. If you upset senior brother Liu, you won't even be able to remain an outer disciple." Li Yun's face immediately darkened. He never expected to run into Huang Yi here. He knew without a doubt that Huang Yi must have been brought in by that senior brother Liu. The fact that he could bring people to the inner sect means that senior brother Liu must also be an inner sect disciple. This is definitely not a good thing. If Huang Yi were to incur the hostility of an inner disciple, that would truly be an undeserved disaster. In an instant, without the slightest hesitation, Li Yun said, "No, who are you? I don't know you. How do you know my name is Li Yun? You haven't mistaken me for someone else, have you?" Huang Yi was taken aback, then flew into a rage. "Li Yun, are you still pretending? You've followed me all the way here, and you're still pretending not to know me. Do you think that doing this will make me change my mind? I'm telling you, it's impossible. It's over between us. That so-called marriage agreement was forced upon us by your parents. My parents only agreed out of desperation. I have no respect for you. You'd better give up on that idea and stop making trouble." Chapter 10, Holy crap, it's all background. The young man in the distance frowned and walked over. "Huang Yi, what happened?" Upon seeing the young man, Huang Yi quickly grabbed his arm and said aggrievedly, "Senior brother Liu, this is Li Yun. I don't know where he heard that you brought me to the inner sect, but he actually followed me here. He's just being delusional. It really has nothing to do with me." Liu Ningkang's gaze swept over Li Yun, and he asked with a gloomy expression, "You are Li Yun?" Li Yun cupped his hands and said, "Senior brother, my name is indeed Li Yun. But I don't know her, and I didn't come here because of her. Is there some misunderstanding?" When it comes to feigning ignorance, Li Yun is a professional. What fiancé? What Huang Yi? If it weren't for the fact that his predecessor had this person's memories, he truly wouldn't have recognized this woman. No way he'd go and fight with other men over this incredibly stupid woman. "Don't you recognize me?" Liu Ningkang clearly didn't believe it. Huang Yi couldn't possibly have mistaken him for someone else. But then Zhang Ruhan spoke up. "Liu Ningkang, isn't there some misunderstanding? Li Yun was brought by me, not because this junior sister thinks I came here for her." "Oh, I see." Liu Ningkang smiled, then suddenly turned around and slapped Huang Yi across the face. "Blind fool. You can mistake the person brought by senior sister, Zhang Ruhan, from the Vermilion Bird Academy." Huang Yi never dreamed that Liu Ningkang would slap her in front of so many people. Her eyes immediately welled up with tears, feeling both sad and wronged. Senior brother Liu, I'm not mistaken, he is. You dare talk back, get out of here. Liu Ningkang slapped her again, sending Huang Yi flying several meters away. Then he looked at Li Yun. With a forced smile, he said, Junior brother Li Yun, right? There's been a little misunderstanding. Please don't mind it. Mind? No. How could I mind? As long as senior brother Liu is happy. Li Yun waved his hand repeatedly. Just kidding, do you mind? What's there to care about? Even if you, Liu Ningkang, beat Huang Yi to death on the spot, it's none of my business. Zhang Ruhan seemed unwilling to get entangled with Liu Ningkang any further. He also said, all right, since it was a misunderstanding, it's good that it's been cleared up. Li Yun, Zhang Chu, let's go into the Vermilion Bird courtyard first. As he spoke, he then led Li Yun and Zhang Chu away, heading directly into the Vermilion Bird courtyard. Liu Ningkang's eyes flashed, but he didn't stop him. He just stared at Zhang Ruhan's slender and graceful back with a gloomy gaze, swallowed hard, and muttered to himself. Damn it, what incredible luck Zhao Chuanfeng had to win Zhang Ruhan's heart. Now I don't even know how to make a move. However, Zhang Ruhan actually brought 2 men to the Vermilion Bird courtyard behind Zhao Chuanfeng's back. Tusk, if Zhao Chuanfeng knew, his expression would probably be quite interesting. Stepping through the gates of Suzakuyuan, Li Yun cursed inwardly, thinking that Huang Yi, that idiot, had ruined his plans. If this woman hadn't suddenly appeared, his knowledge points would definitely have broken the 30,000 mark. With her meddling, he wouldn't have had a chance to observe the stone tablet. Grass. Fortunately, I've finally entered the Vermilion Bird Academy. Even if I can't wander around aimlessly, I'll still have a chance to gain some knowledge points, right? Hey Li Yun, what's with that woman just now? Is she your fiancé? You were robbed. At this moment, Zhang Chu suddenly came over and asked with a gossipy look on his face, with a hint of schadenfreude in his voice. No. How is that possible? She mistook someone for someone else. Li Yun would certainly not admit it. Although he didn't care, it wasn't something to be proud of, so why bother to publicize it everywhere? Zhang Chu looked incredulous. Gee, don't deny it. That woman called out your name and ran straight towards you. How could she have mistaken you for someone else? Quick, tell me about it, make me happy. Snap. The words had barely left his mouth. Zhang Ruhan gave Zhang Chu another sharp rap on the head. Zhang Chu grimaced in pain for a long time. Sis, what are you doing? You hit me again. Didn't we agree that you wouldn't hit me? Who said that was okay? You were just talking to yourself. And why do you have to be so foul-mouthed? I've already told you you've mistaken me for someone else, but you're still chattering away. Are you looking for a beating? Zhang Chu opened his mouth, but in the end he couldn't say anything, feeling only a deep sense of frustration. This made Li Yun chuckle to himself for a while. I secretly gave Zhang Ruhan a thumbs up. Zhang Chu is a guy who needs to be taught a lesson. However, at this moment, Zhang Ruhan glanced at Li Yun and said meaningfully, that person just now is called Liu Ningkang, an inner disciple of the White Tiger Academy. His father, Liu Yunshu, was an elder of the White Tiger Academy, and his grandfather was an elder ranked 17th in the Heavenly Martial Sect. If there is any misunderstanding, clear it up as soon as possible. A real man knows when to bend and when to stand firm. There's nothing shameful about that. Li Yun's expression immediately turned solemn. Thank you for your guidance, senior sister Zhang. Don't worry, I understand. It's good to know. However, you don't need to be too nervous. Once you stay in the Tianwu sect for a while, you'll find that the Tianwu sect follows the rules. No single person can control everything. As long as you don't provoke others, no one can easily bully you. If it really is, go to the outer sect and find Elder Zhang Kong. Tell him that I sent you, and he will step in for you. Li Yun was stunned when Zhang Ruhan said this. Even Zhang Chu was quite surprised. We've only just met, okay. On the very first day they met, he brought Li Yun to the inner sect, which was one thing, but to actually take on Li Yun's responsibilities was just too much. Could it be that my sister has really fallen for Li Yun? Oh my God. This is going to be a big problem. Zhang Chu was filled with worry, but he wasn't really stupid. He would never dare to speak recklessly at a time like this. Thank you, senior sister Zhang. I just met Elder Zhang Kong a couple of days ago. I didn't expect that you and Elder Zhang Kong would know each other. Have you met Zhang Kong? Zhang Ruohan was somewhat surprised, but when she thought about the level Li Yun had reached in basic stance training, she understood the reason. Hehe. I should have thought of that earlier. Zhang Kong is in charge of the martial arts steward in the outer sect. Your basic stance training has improved so quickly. There should have been a martial arts steward reporting to Zhang Kong long ago. Then I won't hide it from you. Zhang Kong is actually from the same clan as me, but according to seniority, he should call me aunt. Holy crap. Li Yun's eyes widened immediately. If Zhang Ruohan hadn't said it, he would never have imagined that Zhang Kong, who was so old, would actually be Zhang Ruohan's cousin. That's terrifying. Zhang Chu said smugly. You didn't expect that, did you, Li Yun? Elder Zhang Kong actually has to call me his uncle. Haha, if you ever dare to glare at me again, I'll go find Zhang Kong and have him punish you. The words had barely left his mouth. Zhang Chu's body then flew up. This time, Zhang Ruohan kicked him with her foot. The older sister beat her younger brother, and this time she really took it to a whole new level. Chapter 11, Mastering It on the Spot. Zhang Chu. No way, I want to try too. All right, we're here. This is my residence, Qingying residence. More than 10 minutes later, the three of them finally stopped in front of a small courtyard with red walls and green tiles. Looking at the small courtyard in front of him, Li Yun felt incredibly envious. Not to mention its quiet and elegant environment, the courtyard alone is nearly 1,000 square meters in size. Such a large courtyard is occupied by only one person. This is the treatment of an inner disciple. They are completely incomparable to outer disciples. The plaque hanging above the courtyard, Qingying Residence, also embodies the true meaning of martial arts, somewhat similar to Cang Yunju Residence of Elder Zhang Kong of the outer sect. Standing in front of the door, I looked at the three characters, Cang Yunju. The system then reacted. Observe the true meaning of martial arts, knowledge points plus 30. Observe the true meaning of martial arts, knowledge points plus 30. Observe the true meaning of martial arts, knowledge points plus 30. The growth rate is similar to that of Cang Yunju. Having already experienced the speed of 300 seconds per second from the Vermilion Bird Steel at the entrance of the Vermilion Bird Academy, this speed of only plus 30 every now, and then obviously couldn't excite Li Yun. But something is better than nothing. At least compared to holding a manual of stance training and enduring the process of gaining 2 points per minute, it's much more enjoyable. Zhang Ruohan pushed the door open and entered. They led Li Yun and Zhang Chu into the courtyard. The first thing you see in the courtyard is a spacious yard with side rooms on 3 sides. There was a stone table and benches in the courtyard, and a set of clean tea set was placed on the table. To the right stood a black stone tablet, the purpose of which was unknown. But when Li Yun's gaze fell on the black stone tablet, the system immediately reacted. Observe the sword testing steel, knowledge points plus 15. Observe the sword testing steel, knowledge points plus 15. The increase wasn't much, but it was fast enough. Li Yun secretly calculated that as long as his gaze was focused on the stone tablet, he could gain 15 points of cognition every 2 seconds, which was equivalent to 450 points per minute. If you can stay at Cang Yunju a little longer, the income can be quite considerable. Please sit down. As the hostess of Qingying Residence, Zhang Ruohan was not at all pretentious. After inviting Li Yun and Zhang Chu to sit down, she personally brewed them a pot of tea. While drinking tea, He told them about some of his experiences within the inner sect. Many of these things were things that ordinary outer disciples would never have access to, which greatly broadened Li Yun's horizons. While listening, Li Yun secretly glanced at the sword testing steel. It felt incredibly pleasant. More than half an hour passed just like that. Zhang Chu seemed to be getting restless and suddenly said, "Li Yun, I don't quite understand. When you first entered the sect, weren't you a 5th grade aptitude, 3 grades lower than my 2nd grade aptitude? How come your basic stance training has progressed so quickly? Do you have some kind of trick?" Li Yun had long known that this was something that couldn't be avoided, and he was mentally prepared for it. "What secret do I have?" It was just a training manual on stance exercises for an inner disciple. As he spoke, he then took out the manual of stance training that Su Qing had given him. Zhang Ruhan's eyes lit up slightly and she asked, "May I take a look?" "See, what's wrong with it?" Li Yun looked completely unconcerned. Zhang Ruhan then took the standing meditation notes, flipped through them, and put them down in less than 10 seconds. He smiled wryly and said, "This manual of your stance training was written by Yuan Lai, an inner disciple from 30 years ago. Yuan Lai was one of the few inner disciples who had perfected the basic stance training and comprehended the 3 true meanings. After he became an inner disciple, he made many copies of these stance training notes and sold them specifically to outer disciples. It has been passed down for many years. But to be honest, it is useful for many outer disciples, but not much." "No way." Li Yun was taken aback for a moment. "I've studied the contents here, and I find them quite useful." Zhang Ruhan shook her head. "It may vary from person to person. Anyway, over the years, you are probably the only one who has been able to master basic stance training in a month with the help of this notebook." "Li Yun, I don't know about that. Anyway, I've been studying this notebook lately. When I met senior sister Zhang, I was also studying it. I might have even come to some understanding." "Senior sister Zhang, may I use your courtyard to sit in meditation for a while?" Zhang Ruhan was somewhat surprised, a glint of light flashing in her beautiful eyes, and she immediately said, "Sure." Li Yun nodded, then got up and walked to the open space to the side. He sat down cross-legged. Zhang Chu exclaimed in surprise, "Sis, this guy is planning too." "Shut up. Watch and don't say a word." Zhang Ruhan glared fiercely at Zhang Chu, who immediately fell silent and could only look at Li Yun with a puzzled expression. At this time, Li Yun had already silently started the system. Points were directly added to basic stance skills. Looking at Li Yun, who was sitting still, a figure appeared in his mind again, silently performing the 12 basic stances. Nearly 15 minutes. Li Yun suddenly opened his eyes, and a bright light burst forth from them. Just this 15 minutes. He consumed approximately 6,000 cognition points, forcefully pushing basic stance skill from the minor success realm to the proficiency realm, leaving 24,125 cognition points remaining on his panel. He smiled slightly and stood up instantly. He began to perform basic stance training right in front of Zhang Ruhan and Zhang Chu. The first step was taken, and it was just put into practice. Zhang Ruhan stood up in surprise, her face filled with astonishment, as if she had seen a ghost. She was dumbfounded. "You've reached the level of mastery." She clearly remembered that when she first met Li Yun's basic stance training had only reached the minor level of mastery. How come he had reached the mastery level directly after sitting in meditation for a while? This is unbelievable. After Li Yun completed all 12 tasks, Zhang Ruhan was completely speechless. "Senior sister Zhang, that's how it is. I don't know how to explain it, but after carefully studying that notebook, I would calm down and try to understand it, and I would gain something every time." Zhang Ruhan. Zhang Chu, who was standing to the side, was so angry that he slammed his hand on the table and stood up. "I don't believe it. I have that notebook too. I'll try it now. Zhang Chu hurriedly turned around and came to the open space next to him. He sat down cross-legged, just like Li Yun had done earlier, and even took a deep breath before slowly closing his eyes. Li Yun. Zhang Ruhan. The two looked at each other, speechless. However, it only took less than half a minute. Zhang Chu opened his eyes and stood up. He glanced at the two of them and said dejectedly, I can't do it. Li Yun, tell me, how did you manage to do it? Zhang Ruhan couldn't help but rub her forehead. He was so angry that he went berserk on the spot. She flashed out and gave Zhang Chu a good beating. This bastard had completely disgraced her. Chapter 12 instructs Zhang Chu on the silken tangling force. After being beaten up by Zhang Ruhan, Zhang Chu felt very wronged. But they were still not quite convinced. He couldn't understand why Li Yun could easily comprehend and progress so rapidly from the same manual of stance training, while he couldn't. He walked up to Li Yun. He bowed deeply. He said in a slightly cheeky tone, Li Yun, oh no. Brother Li, teach me, please teach me, okay. Li Yun. He was somewhat helpless. I can teach you, but could you please not talk like that? I'm a little scared. Zhang Ruhan couldn't help but smile. These two guys were really a pair of clowns. However, she did not interfere. She also wanted to see how Li Yun would teach Zhang Chu. Li Yun stepped aside and said, Zhang Chu, let's get this straight. I've never taught anyone before, so I can't guarantee that teaching you will be effective. If you're willing to accept this, come over here now and practice your stance training. How about I correct it for you based on my own understanding? Okay. Zhang Chu agreed and quickly walked to the side to begin practicing from the first stake. Stop, something's not right. It was only just beginning when Li Yun interrupted it. Zhang Chu had only made half a movement when he froze, completely unaware of what had gone wrong. What's wrong? Zhang Chu looked completely bewildered. Even Zhang Ruhan was a little puzzled. In her opinion, Zhang Chu did have some problems, but they were not unacceptable. However, she didn't say anything and just watched quietly. Li Yun solemnly said, Your movements are wrong, too stiff. The first basic stance in the basic training is called the pine stance. The idea is to stand like a pine tree. A pine tree is indeed straight, but it should be upright, not stiff. You've been rigid from the start, being straight for the sake of being straight, which has caused you to lose a sense of naturalness and expressiveness. How can you possibly grasp the true essence of a pine tree standing tall and straight? Aren't they all straight? What's the difference? The difference is huge. As the saying goes, a small difference can lead to a huge error. Martial arts are rigorous. Don't underestimate this small error. It will have a huge impact on what comes next. Hearing this, Zhang Ruhan, who was standing to the side, couldn't help but seem to be deep in thought. He couldn't help but say, That's right, Li Yun is right. No wonder I felt something was off when you performed it. It was upright rather than stiff. Zhang Chu, you brat, listen to Li Yun and correct your movements. All right. Zhang Chu shrugged helplessly. His sister had already spoken up, and the consequences of disobeying were severe. He didn't want to get another beating. However, the difference between stiff and upright is only one word, but their meanings are completely different. Zhang Chu could understand the meaning behind it, but when it came to actually making changes, he was at a loss. Try harder, it's frozen. If you don't exert enough force, it will collapse. Even after several revisions, the desired effect of upright, natural, straight, and not stiff, as Zhang Chu had described, was still not achieved. Left with no other choice, Li Yun had to go on stage himself and demonstrate. His presence on the field makes all the difference. Standing there simply, it's like a pine tree that has weathered many storms, neither stiff nor loose, but even possessing a unique charm that gives people a very comfortable sense of beauty. Zhang Ruhan's eyes lit up with admiration. She had also come from the outer sect and had once reached the pinnacle of basic stance training. However, after revering the innate state, There was no longer a need to practice standing meditation to cultivate innate true qi, so he did not study standing meditation in detail. Now, if she were to demonstrate it herself, she felt that she wouldn't be able to stand out with such a graceful pine tree stance. But Zhang Chu's understanding was insufficient, and all he could see was confusion. There was no way to tell the difference between his own pine tree stump and Li Yun's pine tree stump. Fortunately, after Li Yun demonstrated for a while, he then explained the intricacies in detail, including posture and angle, as well as breathing frequency, using plain language to explain them, which gradually helped the bewildered Zhang Chu to grasp some of the concepts. When you start using it again, it gradually becomes quite convincing. Then the second pile, the third pile. Nearly 3 hours. Before they knew it, Li Yun had led Zhang Chu through all 12 basic stances of the basic stance exercise. After it's all over, Zhang Chu was thrilled. Ha ha ha, it's done for the first time. I've actually mastered the basic stance training. Sister, did you see that? I've mastered the basic stance training. Tusk, aren't I amazing? Zhang Ruhan rolled her eyes in anger. What's so great about you? If Li Yun hadn't taught you step by step, how could you have mastered the basics so quickly? Yes. Li Yun, you're amazing. Seriously, I've never been convinced by anyone in my life except you. I'm truly convinced now. Li Yun immediately gave Zhang Chu a smile that was neither overly enthusiastic nor lacking in politeness. He actually only wanted to say 2 words. I'm so tired. When it comes to martial arts, practicing it yourself and teaching it to others are 2 completely different things. If he hadn't wanted to find a reason to stay a little longer at Qingying residence and observe the sword testing steel, he would have already made an excuse to return to Ren 95 Academy. However, there are some advantages as well. Through this teaching, he unconsciously reviewed the basic stance training on his own, and this review was actually recognized by the system, silently earning him an extra 300 knowledge points. This also led him to discover another way to gain knowledge points. If you really can't find a suitable person to learn from in the future, you can try giving pointers to others. You can gain knowledge and make friends at the same time, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Just like right now. After guiding Zhang Chu to a basic level of stance training, Li Yun clearly felt that Zhang Ruohan looked at him more kindly, which was equivalent to gaining Zhang Ruohan's favor and friendship. This will obviously be beneficial for him to establish himself in the Tianwu sect in the future. However, it was getting late. Even though he was reluctant to leave Qingying residence, Li Yun had no choice but to take his leave. Zhang Ruohan nodded and asked Li Yun to wait a moment. He went inside and took out a book with a blue cover. Li Yun, your basic stance training has reached the level of mastery. After you go back, find Zhang Kong and you can get a martial art from the armory. However, I see that your comprehension is quite extraordinary, and 1 martial art may not be enough for you to cultivate. I'm giving you this entire art of silk reeling technique. Ah, Senior Sister Zhang, isn't this inappropriate? There's nothing inappropriate about it. I wasted half a day of your time in instructing Zhang Chu. I also failed to take you on a tour of the inner sect as promised. Consider this book on the silk reeling technique as an apology. Don't worry, this book on silk reeling is my personal property. Giving it to you is not against the rules. You are free to study and practice it as you wish. Next time, when I have time, I'll go to the outer sect to find you. Then I'll really show you around in the Vermilion Bird Academy or other academies, and I'll introduce you to some of the inner sect's senior brothers and sisters. Ha, Senior Sister Zhang, you're too kind. I'll have to accept your offer then. Li Yun knew that Zhang Ruohan had truly accepted him and intended to win him over, so he didn't hesitate to take the book, Entangling Silk Force. Just as Zhang Ruohan was preparing to personally see Zhang Chu and Li Yun off, a figure hurriedly arrived at the entrance of Qingying residence. Before I even entered the door, my voice had already arrived. Haha, Ryuhan, I heard you've returned from your mission, and you even brought an outer disciple with you. Why didn't you let me know beforehand so I could be prepared? Zhang Ryuhan's expression changed instantly. Even Zhang Chu became very nervous, hurriedly tugging at Li Yun's sleeve and whispering, "It's my future brother-in-law, Zhao Chuanfeng, who's here. This guy's a bit stingy, so don't say anything out of line." Chapter 13. Stingy, Jealous, and a Simp. As soon as the voice faded, Li Yun saw a young man in brocade robes stride in. It was Zhao Chuanfeng, Zhang Ruhan's fiancé. Li Yun didn't have a good feeling about this person from the first moment he saw him. I always felt that although this person was tall, handsome, and dashing, there was an inescapable shadow between his brows, and it was clear at a glance that he was the kind of person with a dark heart. Such people share a common flaw. They are stingy, jealous, calculating, and prone to extremes. These kinds of people are both difficult to get along with and difficult to offend. He encountered several people like this in his previous life's workplace, which caused him a lot of trouble, and he could only keep his distance from them in the future. However, there's no way to keep your distance here. The world today is a world of martial arts. Even with its strict rules, the ruthless, jungle-like atmosphere beneath the calm surface cannot completely conceal the lingering stench of bloodshed. If you offended someone in your past life, at most you would suffer a little, or at worst be secretly bullied, but it rarely meant you would die. But here, if you really mess with the wrong person, the probability of getting yourself killed increases at least tenfold. Although Li Yun believed that with the system by his side, the future was his own, the system couldn't possibly allow him to become an invincible supreme powerhouse overnight. Still in the developmental stage, it's best to keep a low profile. To this end, Li Yun immediately made up his mind that it was best to leave first and try to avoid dealing with Zhao Chuanfeng, Zhang Ryuhan's fiancé, if possible. Senior Sister Zhang, since you have guests, we'll be leaving now." Li Yun cupped her hands in greeting to Zhang Ryuhan while quickly giving Zhang Chu a wink. Zhang Chu immediately understood. "Ah, right. Now that your future brother-in-law is here, you must have something to say. Sister, we'll head back now." "Oh, it's Zhang Chu. What's going on? You want to leave as soon as I arrive? Do you think I'm some kind of monster?" Before Zhang Ryuhan could nod, Zhao Chuanfeng had already arrived and said in a joking tone, but this guy was too gloomy. He said he was joking, but he always gave people a gloomy feeling, a fake smile. It's terrifying to watch. Li Yun finally understood why Zhang Chu became nervous as soon as he heard that Zhao Chuanfeng had arrived. To be honest, if he were Zhang Chu, he wouldn't want to deal with Zhao Chuanfeng either. Even if he were already Zhao Chuanfeng's brother-in-law, let alone his future brother-in-law, he would stay as far away from him as possible. But he couldn't quite understand it. After spending a short time with Zhang Ryuhan, he had gotten to know her a bit. Although she wasn't particularly cunning, she was definitely not the kind of simple-minded woman who only cared about love. Why would she agree to get engaged to Zhao Chuanfeng? Moreover, when he heard Zhao Chuanfeng's voice just now, he also saw that Zhang Ryuhan's expression was somewhat unpleasant, and could even be described as showing a hint of disgust. Why would they marry someone they dislike? Could there be something fishy going on here? Over here, Li Yun was pondering to himself, while Zhang Chu, upon hearing Zhao Chuanfeng's words, became extremely nervous, stammering, "Senior brother Zhao, I didn't mean that. We've been here quite a while and..." He didn't finish speaking. Zhao Chuanfeng immediately straightened his face and said, "Why are you calling me Senior brother Zhao? Call me Brother Feng." "Ah, yes, Brother Feng." "All right." Zhang Ryuhan spoke up with some dissatisfaction, glaring at Zhang Chu fiercely, clearly unhappy with his timid and subservient behavior in front of Zhao Chuanfeng. "Xiao Chu, you and your classmates have been here for quite a while now. It's time for you to go. Go back to the outer gate by yourselves. I won't see you off." "Yes." Zhang Chu was overjoyed upon hearing this. He tugged at Li Yun's sleeve and, as if granted a pardon, tried to run outside. "Stop!" Zhao Chunfeng suddenly shouted. Li Yun and Zhang Chu were unable to leave Qingying residence directly and had to stop. Zhao Chunfeng glanced at them, then looked back at Zhang Ruhan and snorted with extreme dissatisfaction. "What's going on? I just heard that you brought outer disciples here, so I came to see what was going on. But as soon as I arrived, Zhang Chu wanted to leave and you wanted them to leave too. What does that mean? Are you avoiding me? Zhang Ruhan, you've always treated me like an outsider." Zhang Ruhan's expression changed slightly. "No, you're overthinking it. We're engaged. How could I treat you like an outsider? I just don't want to cause any trouble." To cause more trouble. Upon hearing those 4 words, Zhao Chunfeng's face instantly turned red, and his eyes blazed with anger. "I'm here to cause trouble, Zhang Ruhan, and you still say you don't consider me an outsider. You not only treat me like an outsider, but you also treat me like a monster." Zhang Ruhan said coldly, "Zhao Chunfeng, can't you speak properly? Why are you yelling in front of 2 outer disciples? Don't think I don't know what you're here for. Didn't you come all this way just because you heard Liu Ningkang gossiping about you?" Zhao Chunfeng's expression froze for a moment. "Zhang Ruhan, don't you know what kind of bastard Liu Ningkang is? You actually ran all the way from Qinglong Academy just because he gossiped a few times. Tell me, do you have even the slightest bit of trust in me? I, Zhang Ruhan, am at least an inner disciple of the Vermilion Bird Academy. Even if Zhao Chu isn't my biological brother, what's wrong with me bringing 2 outer disciples here for a chat?" Yes, I was wrong." Zhao Chunfeng was rendered speechless by Zhang Ruhan's retort. He quickly suppressed his anger and began to speak softly and obsequiously, like a sycophant. Li Yun was speechless for a long time. He finally understood that Zhao Chunfeng, despite his seemingly respectable appearance, was actually a stingy and jealous sycophant. Liu Ningkang, whom we encountered at the entrance of Suzaku Academy, was a treacherous and cunning fellow. He didn't say anything at the time, but secretly went to Zhao Chunfeng's side to instigate him. Isn't the purpose of doing this obvious? Not only did he steal Huang Yi, but he also deliberately used Zhao Chunfeng to deal with him. This Liu Ningkang is a complete and utterly despicable scoundrel. Sooner or later, I'll take him down. As for Liu Ningkang's powerful background, what does that have to do with him? Whether in his past life or this one, Li Yun has always adhered to one principle. I will not offend others unless they offend me. But if someone offends me, even if it is the King of Heaven himself, I will fight them if I have the chance. As long as I am strong enough, I can find an opportunity to kill Liu Ningkang. Once he's dead, what good is a strong background? However, that's a story for another time. All freedom and spontaneity are built upon a foundation of strong capabilities. For now, Li Yun felt it was best to keep a low profile and quietly accumulate more knowledge points. Now for him. The key to understanding is everything. Everything else is meaningless. So Li Yun remained silent. After Zhao Chunfeng said some nice things, Zhang Ruhan's expression improved slightly. Zhao Chunfeng then suggested, "How about this, since it's rare for Zhao Chu to come to the inner sect, let me take Zhao Chu and his friends to visit the Azure Dragon Academy." Chapter 14, Turning Against Each Other. Arrogance. Warning. When Zhang Chu heard that Zhao Chunfeng was going to take them to Qinglong Academy, he was completely distraught. He immediately declined, saying, No need, Brother Feng. It's getting dark and Li Yun and I have been out for quite a while, so we have to go back first. We won't trouble you any further, Brother Feng." "What's the meaning? You look down on me. Get this straight, I'm your future brother-in-law, and you're my future brother-in-law. You've already come to the inner sect, so it's one thing if I didn't know, but now that I've met you, how can I not show you around and broaden your horizons? If word gets out, what will people think of me? But it's getting dark. What does it matter that it's getting dark? If you're going to use that as an excuse, then you don't consider me one of your own. Ryuhan, you tell me. Zhao Chuanfeng became increasingly assertive as he spoke. He's completely changed from his previous sycophantic self. Zhang Ryuhan felt somewhat helpless. He had no choice but to say, Zhao Chu, since Zhao Chuanfeng has said so, then you can go with him for a stroll. As for Li Yun, I'll take him back for you first. Zhang Chu could only nod helplessly. He really didn't want to go and didn't want to see Zhao Chuanfeng, but what could he do since his sister had already spoken? Zhao Chuanfeng's expression changed. No way. Since you're all here, let's leave together. Why take Zhao Chu along but let his friends and classmates go back first? What kind of logic is that? Your name is Li Yun, right? I'd like to invite you to go to Qinglong Academy with Zhang Chu. Would you do me the honor? Zhao Chuanfeng suddenly turned his attention to Li Yun. Li Yun. He was cursing under his breath. Damn it, I've been keeping such a low profile. What business is it of mine? They even started threatening us. Fine, I'll go then. Let's just consider it a chance to scavenge some knowledge points at Qinglong Academy. Since senior brother Zhao has invited me, how could I, a mere outer disciple, dare to refuse? Good. Zhao Chuanfeng gave Li Yun a look that said, You're smart to know what's good for you. Then let's go now. Then, without saying a word, he turned around and walked out of Qingying residence. Zhang Chu looked at Zhang Ryuhan with a resentful expression. Sis, what kind of situation is this? Why don't you go and talk to them again and let Li Yun and me go back first? I really don't want to. All right, why all the nonsense? Just go when he tells you to. Is he going to eat you up? Zhang Ryuhan was getting a little impatient. He turned his gaze to Li Yun and said in a low voice, It's okay for you to go. He won't do anything to you. But don't say anything out of line, especially about what happened when we met. Zhang Chu then realized what was happening. Sis, aren't you going? Zhang Ryuhan rolled her eyes. What would I go there for? Don't you know what kind of person that guy is? If I go with him, it'll only annoy him. What could Zhang Chu say besides sighing helplessly? They could only take Li Yun with them, out of Qingying residence, and follow Zhao Chuanfeng to Qinglong Academy. Without Zhang Ryuhan present, Zhao Chuanfeng was in high spirits, constantly introducing the scenery of the inner sect to Zhang Chu. If they met other inner sect disciples along the way, he would also introduce them to Zhang Chu. He would occasionally inquire about Zhang Chu's life outside the sect. In short, they are incredibly passionate. But Li Yun, who was barely visible to the outside world, couldn't help but think that Zhao Chuanfeng was really pretentious and had a truly eccentric personality. One moment she's gloomy and jealous, the next she's all smiles, radiant and cheerful. He's like someone with a split personality. It makes people very uncomfortable. But to everyone's surprise, Zhao Chuanfeng seemed to be deliberately showing off. The journey from Zhuge Academy to Qinglong Academy was already quite long, and he even seemed to be intentionally taking a detour. In addition, Zhao Chuanfeng seemed to be deliberately ignoring him, treating him like he was invisible. As a result, he got off easy. Along the way, we encountered many things worth observing. This caused my martial arts knowledge points to skyrocket, which was even more enjoyable than secretly observing the sword testing steel at Qingying residence. In particular, they happened to encounter two inner sect disciples sparring on a cliff edge somewhere within the sect. Zhao Chuanfeng even deliberately stopped to explain the techniques to Zhang Chu. They stayed there for a full 15 minutes. Afterwards, he even introduced Zhang Chu to the two inner disciples who had sparred with him. This wave alone brought Li Yun a full 6,000 cognition points, bringing his martial arts cognition points on the panel back to over 30,000. Li Yun was so happy, he almost burst out laughing. For this reason alone, he suddenly found Zhao Chuanfeng much more agreeable. As a result, Li Yun became even more low-key. The main idea is to make a fortune quietly. Thus, all the way to Qinglong Academy, while Zhao Chuanfeng kept rambling on, Li Yun's cognitive points unexpectedly broke through 50,000. At the entrance of Qinglong Temple, there also stands a Qinglong stone tablet. Like the Vermilion Bird Academy, this stone tablet representing the Azure Dragon Academy contains extremely profound martial arts essence. Zhao Chuanfeng, who was addicted to showing off, certainly had no reason to let this opportunity pass. He deliberately lingered in front of the stone tablet at the entrance of Qinglong Temple and carefully explained to Zhang Chu everything from the origin of Qinglong Temple to the establishment of the stone tablet at the entrance. He talked for a full 10 minutes. Zhang Chu was so frustrated that his face almost curled up into a ball. This guy clearly doesn't know how to control his emotions, let alone understand human nature. In front of someone like Zhao Chuanfeng, who's a bit schizophrenic, the more impatient he becomes, the more Zhao Chuanfeng shows off. But all of this benefited Li Yun. On average, there are 300 cognitive points per second, which is 18,000 per minute. 10 minutes later, this allowed him to amass a whopping 180,000 martial arts knowledge points in one go. In addition to what was already there, the martial arts knowledge points on the panel have shockingly exceeded 230,000. Look at this number. Li Yun's eyes were practically gleaming with greed, and he almost wanted to shout it out. Damn it, what schizophrenia, what simp? None of that. Zhao Chuanfeng is a really good guy. However, happiness is ultimately fleeting. 10 minutes later, feeling he had shown off enough, Zhao Chuanfeng led the two into the Azure Dragon courtyard and went directly to his own residence. It is also an independent courtyard, named directly after the wind, so it is called Chuanfeng Residence. Li Yun almost threw up from seeing it. Upon entering Chuanfeng Residence, Zhao Chuanfeng personally arranged several dishes and 3 jugs of wine, insisting that Li Yun and Zhang Chu sit down and drink together. They said they would treat us well. This troubled Zhang Chu so much that he had no choice but to reluctantly pull Li Yun down to drink with him. It's safe to say that this was the most unpleasant drinking session Zhang Chu had ever had in his life. In no time at all, he was drunk. Li Yun didn't know if he was faking it or was really drunk. He cursed under his breath a few times, but could only grit his teeth and continue drinking with Zhao Chuanfeng. But unexpectedly, a little while later, Zhao Chuanfeng put down his wine glass, showing no intention of drinking with Li Yun. Even their attitude has changed. He adopted a cold, contemptuous, and superior attitude. You're really lucky. You've only been a disciple for a month, and you've already become friends with Zhang Chu, and you even have the opportunity to come to the inner sect. But I'm warning you, I don't like any other man besides me around Ryuhan. Zhang Chu is out of the question, and you're even less of a choice. This time, for Zhang Chu's sake, I won't make things difficult for you. But if there's a next time, no matter who brings you here, you'll die. I'm not joking with you. In the heavenly martial sect, killing you is as easy as crushing a bug. After saying that, he then took out a yellowed ancient book from his pocket and threw it in front of Li Yun. This is a secret martial arts technique that can improve your aptitude. Take it and get out of here. Chapter 15 Wang Erdong, your joke went a little too far. Li Yun looked up at Zhao Chuanfeng. This guy had a contemptuous and cold look on his face. His attitude was really arrogant, and he really looked down on him deep down. But it doesn't matter. Li Yun was also decisive. He picked up the yellowed book, got up, and left. Before leaving, he made a point of thanking Zhao Chuanfeng, so politely that Zhao Chuanfeng was a little taken aback. How could he not be angry? He humiliated you so openly, yet you didn't get angry or embarrassed. HMPH, an outer sect member is just an outer sect member. A person born into poverty and lacking backbone is destined for mediocrity and will never achieve anything significant in their life. How could he possibly understand Li Yun's logic? In Li Yun's view, getting angry when you are weak is completely meaningless. Even if you shout, 30 years west of the river, 30 years east of the river, It only makes you look more incompetent, and it's meaningless. It's better to take advantage of any opportunity first, and then, once you have enough strength, seize the chance and get back at the top. Li Yun left Qinglong Courtyard overnight. As I left, I glanced one last time at the Azure Dragon stele at the entrance of the Azure Dragon Academy. I had hoped to take advantage of the fact that no one was around to earn some more knowledge points, since it wouldn't be so easy to come to the inner sect again after today. Pity. He had barely stopped walking when someone from the Azure Dragon Academy came out, and their eyes were clearly hostile. To avoid trouble, Li Yun had no choice but to leave first. When he returned to the outer courtyard of Ren 95, the courtyard was quiet and most of the rooms were dark, indicating that everyone was asleep. Anyway, there's nobody around. Li Yun simply sat down in a corner of the courtyard. Bring up the system panel. Host, Li Yun. Age, 16. Qualification, rank 5. Identity, outer disciple of the 95th Academy of the Tianwu sect. Realm, acquired body tempering level 2. Martial arts, basic stance training mastery 1%. Martial arts knowledge points, 240,565. Looking at the 240,000 martial arts knowledge points on the panel, Li Yun couldn't help but smile. This was the source of his confidence. Liu Ningkang, Zhao Chunfeng. Compared to the fundamentals of martial arts, they're all utter nonsense. Just you wait. Soon, you will realize that offending me is the biggest mistake you have ever made in your life. System. Add points. Without wasting any time, Li Yun immediately consumed his knowledge points to study basic stance technique again. This time, a full 10,000 points were consumed. 15 minutes later, Li Yun awoke from his reverie, and his basic stance training had risen from 1% proficiency to 1% mastery. Li Yun was not satisfied and continued to comprehend it. Another 20,000 knowledge points were deducted. Half an hour later, the basic stance training was completed successfully. The completion of basic stance training means that he has cultivated it to its limit, which is the limit in the ordinary sense. According to Zhang Ryuhan, the basic stance training contains 12 kinds of martial arts essence, corresponding to the 12 stance training, which is the true source of martial arts. Only after achieving perfection can one have the opportunity to comprehend these 12 true meanings of martial arts. Each skill mastered provides an extremely powerful boost to body tempering. At this moment, after reaching the perfected state, the basic stance skill on the panel indeed displayed 3 words: can be sublimated. Li Yun guessed that the so-called sublimation should be a direct reference to the 12 true meanings of martial arts contained in the basic stance training. I immediately decided to give it a try. However, as soon as the thought crossed his mind, Li Yun's expression changed. Just one test, and the martial arts knowledge points on the panel instantly decreased by 50,000. He first used 30,000 knowledge points to push basic stance training to perfection, and then another 50,000, leaving him with only 160,565 martial arts knowledge points. Damn it! Why are these martial arts knowledge points so short-lived? Li Yun felt a pang of regret, but the process of losing martial arts knowledge points could not be reversed. We can only face reality. And at this moment, sublimation begins. The next second, he felt as if his soul had left his body, and he drifted into a wonderful state. It felt like a grand dream. In his dream, he was no longer a person, but had become an ancient pine tree. Standing tall in the mountains, it remains proud and upright regardless of wind and rain or frost and snow. Between heaven and earth, there was a faint, mysterious, and vibrant energy seeping into my body, making my life more vigorous. Call. What profound meaning the pine tree holds, truly mysterious and unfathomable. I don't know how much time passed. When Li Yun came to his senses again, it was already dawn. Some diligent outer disciples of the Ren 95 Academy have already started practicing stance training, but every now and then someone will glance at him with a strange expression. Li Yun was immediately horrified. A whole night has passed. Wow, good heavens, cultivation truly knows no time. This is only the first true meaning of basic stance training. If you come into contact with more profound martial arts later, wouldn't it take even longer to comprehend them? Li Yun took a deep breath. Looking around the courtyard, since some people had already gotten up, it was no longer suitable to practice martial arts there. He simply got up and walked straight out the door. I'm going to find a secluded place to properly contemplate the true meaning of the pine tree that I've grasped in just one night, and see if it really has a significant benefit for body tempering. And he had just left. The people in the courtyard started whispering among themselves. Hey, what's wrong with Li Yun? Has he gone mad? You didn't sleep all night, just sat in the yard. Still acting silly. Hey, what do you guys know? This guy's acting all mysterious. He might be trying to grasp the true meaning of stance training. Come on, him. With a mere 5th grade aptitude, it would be good if he could achieve initial success in a year, let alone comprehend the true meaning. If he could comprehend the true meaning, I'd be willing to swallow dog shit upside down. No, don't be so ruthless. If he can master the basics of stance training now, Wang Erdong, can swallow dog poop upside down right now. Creak. Just then, another door next to it opened. Gu Yunzhang walked out with a strange expression. Wang Erdong, what did you just say? It's senior brother Gu. Sorry to wake you up. Upon seeing Gu Yunzhang, Wang Erdong immediately became obsequious. Being approached by someone trying to get close to you. I'm asking you, what did you just say? Wang Erdong didn't understand what he meant, and after a moment of surprise, he said, Senior brother Gu, it's nothing. I was just joking when I said that if Li Yun had mastered the basics of stance training, I would swallow dog poop upside down. Don't take it to heart. Gu Yunzhang smiled. No, why would I mind? I don't mind. However, you might have gone too far with that joke. To be honest, Li Yun, using some unknown method, already achieved initial mastery of stance training a few days ago. The martial arts deacon witnessed it firsthand, so you. Gu Yunzhang chuckled and walked away before finishing his sentence. The guy named Wang Erdong was dumbfounded. The people around him were all shocked, and then their gazes toward Wang Erdong became strange. Wang Erdong was so embarrassed he almost wanted to disappear into the ground. He hurriedly said, I suddenly remembered I need to go to Hospital 97. I'm leaving now. Then, he hurriedly ran out of the Ren 95 compound. Seeing this, the others also surrounded Gu Yunzhang. Senior brother Gu, was what you just said true or false? Has Li Yun really achieved initial success in stance training? It must be said that Gu Yunzhang's sudden release of this news was a huge shock to everyone present. Chapter 16. Lifting a rock only to drop it on one's own foot. Gu Yunzhang certainly didn't mean any harm by intentionally reminding Wang Erdong. In fact, ever since that night, he had been holding his breath, unable to understand where he fell short compared to Li Yun. He was clearly a first-grade talent, while Li Yun was only a 5th-grade talent. Why did Li Yun achieve initial mastery of basic stance training earlier than him? Unable to understand the reason, this feeling of unease lingered in his heart, making him feel uneasy and even affecting his cultivation over the past 2 days. So he deliberately said it. He wanted everyone in the Ren 95 Academy to know that they were all newly initiated outer disciples, all starting from scratch to cultivate basic stance training. None of them had achieved initial success, except for Li Yun. He wanted everyone to be jealous, unhappy, and even ostracize Li Yun. And so, in Gu Yunzhang's mouth, Li Yun thus became someone who quietly mastered the basics of stance training, yet remained unassuming, seemingly humble, but actually looking down on the Ren 95 Institute. This successfully provoked considerable displeasure among the disciples of the Ren 95 Academy. However, Gu Yunzheng did not notice that while he was secretly slandering Li Yun, an angry figure also entered Ren 95 courtyard. It was Zhang Chu, who had sobered up and run back from Qinglong courtyard. He originally intended to settle scores with Li Yun. This guy actually left him all alone at the Azure Dragon Academy. He's so disloyal. But to his surprise, as soon as he returned to Ren 95 courtyard, he heard Gu Yunzheng slandering Li Yun, and he couldn't help but speak out. "Shut up." Gossiping behind people's backs and ruining their reputations. Gu Yunzheng, how dare you be the chief? Such a shameless sycophant, with such a petty mind. He's nothing but a despicable person. Gu Yunzheng turned around angrily and said, "Zhang Chu, you bastard, what right do you have to curse me like that?" Zhang Chu scoffed, "Insult you? I'm being lenient by not beating you up, you're not worthy." "You, Zhang Chu, don't go too far. When did I slander Li Yun? I'm just stating the facts. Li Yun only has a 5th grade aptitude. How could he achieve the initial stage of stance training faster than everyone else? It's obvious from a casual thought that he must have used some underhanded methods, and this person is always elusive, never practicing martial arts in the courtyard, and looks down on the people of Ren 95 courtyard. Where did I say something wrong?" "First time." Zhang Chu sneered. "Who told you that Li Yun has only just begun his training? He's already reached the level of mastery, okay? Under his guidance, I've already achieved the initial stage. Only you, the so-called chief, are clueless. You lead a bunch of lackeys around, acting all high and mighty, and you're jealous of others and slandering them. It's laughable. If I were Li Yun, I wouldn't bother with you either." As he spoke, Zhang Chu looked at another disciple. "Chen Shan, have you seen Li Yun?" "Ah, Li Yun. Just went out, I wonder where he went." "Damn it, that bastard. He left me alone at the Azure Dragon Academy while I was drunk, and then sneaked back to cultivate. I'm going to settle the score with him." Zhang Chu gritted his teeth and cursed loudly before turning around and running out. He knew where to find Li Yun. If I'm not mistaken, it should still be the place where I met his sister yesterday. That place is quite remote, which is perfect for Li Yun to show off his skills. His departure caused an uproar among the people in the courtyard. Did you hear what Zhang Chu just said? Li Yun's stance training is not at the initial stage, but at the level of mastery. Are you kidding me? Reaching mastery of basic stance training in just 1 month. Doesn't that break the record for the fastest initial mastery by any outer disciple in history? Damn, are you stupid? This isn't just breaking the fastest initial record, it's practically leaving the fastest initial record far behind. This Li Yun is simply a genius. Could it be that a true dragon is about to emerge from our Ren 95 Institute? Wouldn't we all benefit from being in the same outer sect as such a super genius? Gu Yun, standing to the side, listened to the exclamations of the surrounding disciples. His face had already turned bright red, then black as the bottom of a pot. No. I'm not talking about their mastery of stance training. I'm talking about Li Yun and Zhang Chu. Didn't you notice? They actually went to the inner sect last night and even drank alcohol. Chen Shan said with a strange expression. The courtyard fell silent immediately after he said that. It was only then that everyone realized what was happening. His face was filled with horror. Good heavens, this is really good heavens. Li Yun and Zhang Chu actually managed to go to the inner sect and even drink there. What kind of background do they have? In an instant, everyone looked at Gu Yunzheng differently now. It's like they're looking at an idiot. What, Chief? You're an idiot. Instead of currying favor with a fellow disciple who is a genius with a powerful background, he is jealous and slanders him behind his back. It's best to stay away from this kind of person as soon as possible to avoid being implicated by him in the future. Let's go practice martial arts. When senior brother Li returns, we'll find a chance to ask him for guidance. Maybe we can improve rapidly too. Yes, yes, yes. Having senior brother Lee in our Ren 95 department is definitely a blessing for us. Soon, everyone in the courtyard dispersed. No one dared to argue with Gu Yun anymore. The same goes for those who used to surround him and call him senior brother Gu. As the saying goes, when a wall falls, everyone pushes it down. When a drum is broken, everyone beats it. At this moment, Gu Yunzhang was experiencing what true isolation meant. But the problem was, what he initially wanted was to isolate Li Yun, not himself. Faced with this result, Gu Yunzhang's eyes turned red. You are all a bunch of opportunists who follow the wind and curry favor with the powerful. You all just wait and see. I refuse to believe that a mere 5th grade talent is some kind of genius. We'll see. I, Gu Yun, will never lose to Li Yun. Gu Yunzhang left in anger, also walking away from Ren 95. His words didn't attract much attention. They were met with disdain. At the same time, in that secluded grove, Li Yun practiced the basic stances one by one, from the first stance to the 12th stance, and then back to the first stance. It's more than just flowing clouds and water, a masterpiece of nature. Even more mysteriously, when he finally returned to the first stillness, the aura emanating from him, like a pine tree unafraid of wind and snow, was truly awe-inspiring. Zhang Chu, who originally came to settle scores with Li Yun, hurriedly ran to the edge of the grove and saw Li Yun standing still like a pine tree. His mouth immediately opened wide enough to fit a goose egg. In that instant, Zhang Chu felt a chill creep up his spine from the soles of his feet, straight to his brain, making him feel cold and uneasy. Is this guy a freak? How did you even grasp the true meaning? Chapter 17 is utterly inadequate. Use intention as the foundation, and draw spiritual energy to temper the body. Although it's only a very small amount of spiritual energy, it's already extraordinary. Only someone born with spiritual roots could achieve this. Truly worthy of being called a basic stance training exercise. No wonder the heavenly martial sect requires every newly initiated disciple to start with basic stance training. There's definitely a reason for it. At this time, immersed in the true meaning of the pine tree, Li Yun felt the tiny amount of spiritual energy in the air being drawn in by the true meaning of the pine tree, slowly permeating his body and soul, and he was filled with emotion. This is merely the true meaning of the first of the 12. This will produce such an effect. He had a strong premonition that if he could cultivate all 12 true meanings in the stance training, the effect would definitely be even more obvious. Perhaps he could reach the 9th level of body tempering and break through to the realm of power refinement without any external assistance. Thinking of this gave him immense motivation. However, at this moment, Zhang Chu had already come running over with a big smile on his face. Li Yun, oh no, boss. You're being incredibly disloyal. You actually left me alone in Zhao Chuanfeng's courtyard while you secretly ran back to cultivate. Pa, did I sneak back? I was clearly kicked out. Wait, what did you call me? When did I become your boss? Zhang Chu said in a cheeky tone. Yesterday you guided me in practicing stance training and helped me achieve the initial stage. Now you're my boss. If it weren't for the sect rules, I would have wanted to become your disciple. Get out of here. You dare to ask me to be your master. You'd better kill me. Li Yun was so angry that he raised his foot to kick, but Zhang Chu dodged it. Hey boss, you just said you were kicked out. What happened? See for yourself. Li Yun didn't hide anything and took out the book Zhao Chuanfeng had given him. After you got drunk, your future brother-in-law turned on me and threw a book at me, saying it was a martial arts manual that could improve one's aptitude. The price was that I could no longer have contact with your sister, and I couldn't go to Qingying residence anymore, or my life would be in danger. Puh. That Zhao Chuanfeng is always like that, stingy and cunning. Just seeing him annoys me. Wait, let me take a look at this book. Zhang Chu gets furious whenever Zhao Chuanfeng is mentioned. But then he seemed to remember something and snatched the book away. I flipped through it. He then cursed and said, I knew it. This is the fate-defying technique. You absolutely mustn't cultivate it. What martial art that supposedly improves aptitude? It's trying to kill you. If you want my life, what do you have to say? Li Yun never believed that Zhao Chuanfeng would be so kind as to casually give him a martial arts technique that could improve his aptitude. You should know that talent is something that is innate. It is basically impossible to change the day after tomorrow. If there really is a martial art that can improve one's aptitude, then it must be a top-tier martial art in the world. How could Zhao Chuanfeng just casually throw it out? The reason he took it out was to use Zhang Chu to send a message to Zhang Ryuhan so that he could see the nature of the book. Unexpectedly, Zhang Chu immediately understood the situation. Boss, this book is called The Reverse Fate Technique. I heard my sister say that when it first appeared 10 years ago, it caused a great sensation. Many disciples heard that practicing the reverse fate technique could improve their aptitude, so they spent a lot of money to get a copy. Even some inner disciples couldn't resist the temptation. But as a result, those who cultivated the fate reversal technique either died or were maimed. Later, it alarmed the sect's higher-ups. After an investigation, they learned that the book was deliberately spread by an organization called the Heavenly Mandate Cult. It cannot be cultivated at all. It will only cripple people or even turn them into monsters that are neither human nor ghost. Therefore, 10 years ago, the sect issued an order that Tianwu sect disciples were no longer allowed to cultivate the reverse fate technique. Those who violated this order would be expelled from Tianwu sect, and if they caused any consequences, they would even be killed by the punishment hall as evil disciples. Li Yun's face immediately turned ugly. As someone who had transmigrated and been reborn, he immediately understood Zhao Chuanfeng's intention. If you give him the reverse fate technique, and he thinks it can improve his aptitude and secretly practices it, he will either die or be crippled. If he resists the temptation and doesn't practice it, and then finds someone to report him to the punishment hall for secretly possessing the forbidden martial art, the reverse fate technique, he will also be in deep trouble. In turn, however, he was unable to report Zhao Chuanfeng. Since no one else saw Zhao Chuanfeng give him the reversal of fate technique, if someone were to report it, Zhao Chuanfeng could easily frame him for something. The fate of an outer disciple who frames an inner disciple is, needless to say, absolutely tragic. He might actually be killed by the punishment hall as a heretic. That Zhao Chuanfeng is truly vicious. Is it really necessary? He was just taken to the inner sect by Zhang Ryuhan, and she wanted to kill him. This moment, without hesitation, Li Yun quietly wrote Zhao Chuanfeng's name into his blacklist. Just wait, I'll kill you sooner or later. Zhang Chu was even more furious, gritting his teeth as he said, Damn it, Zhao Chuanfeng is a real scoundrel. He actually used the reversal of fate technique to frame our boss. No way, I'm going to find my sister right now. Li Yun hurriedly pulled him back and snatched the reversal of fate manual from him. Return. Why are you in such a hurry, kid? What good will it do for you to go to your sister now? He's still your future brother-in-law. Do you think your sister will report him? Besides, do you even have any evidence? On the contrary, you're the one who took a technique that defies fate to the inner sect. If you're discovered, not only will you be in trouble, but your sister might also be implicated. Zhang Chu was stunned for a moment, then gritted his teeth and said, Boss, what do you suggest we do? We can't just let Zhao Chuanfeng frame us like this. It's infuriating just thinking about it. Upon hearing this, Li Yun couldn't help but laugh. I said, isn't Zhao Chuanfeng your future brother-in-law? He's one of your own. He framed me, not you. Why are you so angry? Stop talking. What do you mean by our own people? Pshaw, boss, let me tell you if it weren't for... never mind, I wouldn't dare say this without my sister's permission. She'd kill me if I did. Never mind. No matter what that guy framed you like this, I have to talk to my sister and ask her if there's anything she can do. Otherwise, once that guy has his eye on you, he'll get you sooner or later. After saying that, Zhang Chu left in a hurry, ignoring Li Yun's calls. This kid. Li Yun shook his head helplessly, not caring at all. In fact, although he was angry, he thought that Zhao Chuanfeng, a dignified inner disciple, was not worthy of being treated with such underhanded tactics. There's absolutely no need to feel upset about this method. The solution is simple. It's all about cultivation. Once your own strength increases, all schemes and tricks will be in vain. He quickly put the matter out of his mind and took out the book Silk Reeling Force that Zhang Ruohan had given him to study. Unlike basic stance training, this was a real martial art with offensive capabilities. After transmigrating, this was his first encounter with this kind of martial art, and he was quite interested in it. Chapter 18, the silk reeling technique is perfected, and the reverse fate technique is cultivated. Li Yun carefully examined the silk reeling technique and was quite surprised. This is a martial art for the body tempering realm, but it is considered a top-grade martial art even among those in the body tempering realm. This martial art emphasizes softness, cultivating one's strength to possess a gentle, yielding power, combined with 18 grappling techniques, making the movements as tangled as 1,000 threads, locking down the enemy. It is extremely powerful, but very difficult to cultivate. The reason is simple. Most body tempering realm martial artists lack sufficient understanding of martial arts, and their perception of their own power remains at the level of fierce and domineering. They use brute force when they strike, which is simple and crude, and it is difficult for them to appreciate the subtle and gentle beauty of silk entangling force that reverses fierceness and violence. Li Yun tried it himself, but he couldn't do it either. Even though the intention is to be gentle, the actual effect is just a little force, merely using a small amount of force to perform grappling techniques, which has nothing to do with gentleness. Despite possessing considerable strength, he suppressed his power in an attempt to achieve a more graceful form, which made him feel extremely awkward. After only a few attempts, he almost strained his back. This is due to insufficient understanding of the martial arts, and even more so, insufficient knowledge of the martial arts path. The root cause lies in his lack of qualifications. The 5th grade aptitude I was assessed upon entering the sect was indeed somewhat lacking compared to those geniuses who easily achieved 1st or 2nd grade aptitude. However, Li Yun was not troubled. He just wanted to try cultivating without the system, but now it's proven that without the system's support, his talent is simply not enough. So he wouldn't be so foolish as to get stuck on this dead end. Very decisively, I directly chose the system-allocated points. There are still over 160,000 martial arts knowledge points on the panel. You don't need to save them or use them to have children, right? That made me feel much better. You don't need to do anything else. Just calm down and practice the silk reeling force by focusing on the figure in your mind. Then came an incredibly rapid and exaggerated progress. 200 key points for understanding silk reeling force. Introduction. With 500 cognitive points, the silk reeling force is initially formed. 1,200 cognitive points, proficient in silk winding energy. 3,000 cognitive points, minor mastery of silk reeling force. 6,000 cognitive points, mastery of silk reeling force. With 10,000 points of understanding, one can master the silk reeling force. With 20,000 knowledge points, silk reeling force is directly perfected. In just an hour and a half, he spent 40,900 martial arts knowledge points and directly reached a level that other outer disciples would take at least a year to achieve. That feeling, well, let's not even go there. It gave Li Yun an incredible feeling all over again. Especially after fully digesting it, when he actually used the 18 grappling techniques of silk entangling force. In the grove, his 2 hands were like 2 snakes, agile and strange. He tried to wrap his arms around a small tree, and the trunk, which was as thick as his wrist, was easily snapped in 2. But he didn't find it particularly strenuous. Martial arts are truly incredible, and this is merely the most basic martial art. One day in the future, when I break through to the innate realm or even a higher realm, wouldn't that feel amazing? Li Yun's face was full of longing. In a past life, money is the courage of heroes. Money may not be everything, but without it, you can hardly move an inch. But in this life, force is the courage of a hero, and great force is definitely superior to money. With the completion of the silk reeling force, Li Yun truly felt a sense of security that he had never experienced before. Once you've tasted the marrow, you'll crave more flavor. Li Yun then planned to invest the remaining martial arts knowledge points into basic stance training. He decided to fully comprehend the 12 martial arts essences contained in the basic stance training as soon as possible in order to improve his body tempering efficiency. After all, while the subtle and gentle nature of silk reeling force is powerful, it ultimately cannot escape the support of its own absolute strength. Without sufficient strength, no matter how high the level of silk entangling force is, even if one can break a tree trunk as thick as a wrist, one cannot harm a tree trunk as thick as a waist in the slightest. Cultivation and martial arts skills must always complement each other. However, just as he was about to further refine his basic stance training, he suddenly remembered the reversal of fate technique that Zhao Chuanfeng had given him and took it out. Li Yun hesitated for a moment. He was thinking, no one else can handle this reversal of fate technique, but I have a system. Can I handle it? If a martial art that can improve one's aptitude can be mastered, it would be nothing short of defying fate, which would be of great significance to someone like him, who only has a 5th grade aptitude. Li Yun subconsciously glanced around. Since no one had noticed, he decided to give it a try. If all else fails, it's not too late to throw away the reverse fate technique. Immediately, Li Yun then opened the reversal of fate technique. This book, The Secret of Revering Fate, is not thick, only 7 or 8 pages long, with a total of only 3,000 or 4,000 words. Li Yun spent a little time and easily finished reading it. A new line appeared in the martial arts records on the system panel. Reversal of fate technique, not yet mastered. This gave Li Yun a great boost. The fact that it can be included in the system and displayed on the panel proves one thing. This is indeed a martial art, just like basic stance training and silk reeling force, which can be improved with knowledge points. If that's the case, then why should he hesitate? He simply put the reverse fate technique into his pocket and used his martial arts knowledge points to improve it. However, the next second he was shocked. The first upgrade alone cost 10,000 cognition points. The number of knowledge points on the panel has dropped to 119,665. With these 10,000 martial arts knowledge points, Li Yun officially entered the reverse fate technique and naturally comprehended a unique breathing method. But apart from that, he didn't feel any changes in himself. It made him feel that he had wasted those 10,000 knowledge points. However, once the arrow is released, there's no turning back. Since we've already started cultivating, we can't just give up halfway, can we? Moreover, the fact that just getting started consumes 10,000 knowledge points is enough to prove the extraordinary nature of the reverse fate technique. It is far superior to martial arts like basic stance training and silk reeling force, which are only at the body tempering realm. So, Li Yun gritted his teeth, made a firm decision, and made a second upgrade to the reverse fate technique. Whoosh! The second time, the martial arts knowledge points consumed were even more outrageous, amounting to 100,000. This single blow reduced his martial arts knowledge points to only 19,665. These points were no longer enough for him to further refine his basic stance training for the second time. Li Yun felt a pain in his heart, as if it were being cut by a knife. It was so painful I could hardly breathe. However, the reversal of fate technique thus reached the initial stage, which not only made the breathing method he had previously comprehended more complex, but also allowed him to comprehend a more profound method for circulating qi and blood within the body. When breathing is combined with the movement of qi and blood, the situation becomes very different. Did the aptitude really improve in Chapter 19? In a secluded grove of trees, Li Yun sat cross-legged silently, motionless, but if anyone were present, they would have noticed that the skin above his neck, the back of his hands, and other areas not covered by his clothes had turned bright red. It resembled a red-hot branding iron, faintly emitting a faint heat. Centered on his body, the temperature within a radius of 3 or 4 meters suddenly increased by several degrees, demonstrating the extent to which his body temperature had reached. But not long after, Li Yun suddenly opened his eyes, panting heavily as if he had been simmering in an oven and had barely escaped. Damn it! What kind of technique is this reversal of fate? Why is it so difficult to cultivate? Compared to the enjoyment brought by basic stance training and silk reeling force, practicing this reverse fate technique can only be described as torture. The unique breathing technique, combined with the movement of qi and blood, made the whole process feel like it was on fire. The heated blood flowed through his body, bringing him intense pain wherever it passed. He couldn't hold on for more than 2 minutes. This isn't because he has a weak will. It's just that no normal person enjoys self-harm. Moreover, such painful stimulation is simply too deadly. It almost made him doubt that if he didn't stop in time and continue practicing, he would die in 5 minutes at most. No. It seems this technique cannot be practiced casually. I need to be more cautious and try to accumulate more knowledge points to raise my level before trying again. Perhaps there will be some changes. After his body temperature finally returned to normal, Li Yun regulated his breathing and got up. He was no longer going to take such a risk to cultivate the reverse fate technique. However, as soon as I got up, Li Yun's pupils suddenly contracted. He vaguely sensed something was amiss. He suddenly realized that his strength seemed to have increased imperceptibly, and even his normal breathing was more comfortable and powerful than usual. I could faintly hear my own heart pounding, like a drum beat, and it was more vigorous than usual. After taking 2 steps forward, I felt an inexplicable sense of lightness. The whole thing seemed to have undergone some kind of unknown transformation. He quickly opened the system panel. He was stunned at first glance. Host, Li Yun. Age, 16. Qualification, mid-rank 5. Identity, outer disciple of the 95th Academy of the Tianwu sect. Realm, acquired body tempering level 3. Martial arts, basic stance training perfected, silk reeling force perfected, reversal of fate technique initial. Martial arts knowledge points, 19,565. Holy crap. Body tempering level 3. His aptitude has improved from rank 5 to mid-rank rank 5. Is this a true upgrade? Li Yun could hardly believe her eyes. It's no big deal that his cultivation level has inexplicably increased by 1 level. He believes that once he truly dedicates himself to the cultivation of basic stance training, this kind of improvement will become easy and rapid. But the key issue is that the 5th grade qualification, which should have remained unchanged, has changed. This couldn't help but surprise him. This means that the practice of the reverse fate technique is indeed effective. It can actually improve one's aptitude. Good heavens. I invested 110,000 knowledge points in this, and it was definitely worth it. The excitement of that moment almost made Li Yun sit down to cultivate again, but when he thought of the pain he felt when cultivating the reverse fate technique, he managed to suppress the urge. Although there was no evidence to prove it, Li Yun's intuition told him that the reversal of fate technique could indeed improve aptitude, but he should never immerse himself in it for an extended period of time. That kind of technique is more like going to extremes. If you can't maintain your balance, you might not improve your aptitude, but instead lose your life. he decided to play it safe and try again at least a day later. He took this opportunity to gather more knowledge about martial arts. With the simultaneous cultivation of 3 martial arts, his need for martial arts knowledge points is increasing, and he doesn't want his cultivation to stagnate due to a lack of knowledge points. He decided not to wait any longer and went directly to Cang Yun residence to see Zhang Kong. On one hand, he went to Zhang Kong to fulfill his promise, and on the other hand, he went to observe the true meaning of martial arts in Cang Yun residence to gain knowledge points. So far, the inner sect cannot easily approach it, and Cang Yun residence can be considered the most suitable place for him to gain knowledge points among the outer sect. Do it as soon as you think of it. However, just to be on the safe side, before leaving, he took out the reversal of fate technique and burned it with the tinderbox he carried with him. Since I've already mastered the martial arts, all that's left is to add points to improve them. Whether I have the reverse fate technique book or not is no longer important. Keeping it would only make things worse, so there's no need for that. I just burned the reverse fate manual and crushed the ashes completely with my feet. Zhang Chu then hurriedly ran into the grove again. He looked somewhat dejected. Boss, my sister knows, but she doesn't have any good ideas. She can only ask you to destroy the book first. You can only pretend you don't know anything about this. Li Yun couldn't help but laugh. Zhang Chu said rather displeasedly, Boss, how can you still laugh? Li Yun, why can't I laugh? As expected. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Look, I've already burned that book. Li Yun pointed to the faint gray dust still visible on the ground. Zhang Chu glanced at it and couldn't help but give Li Yun a thumbs up. Boss, you're really something. You just burned it without hesitation. That's incredibly decisive. Zhang Chu knew that although the reversal of fate technique had been proven to be a harmful book, many people still couldn't resist the temptation of a martial art that supposedly could improve one's aptitude and would secretly practice it. Li Yun, however, burned it without hesitation. All I can say is that they were too resolute and too decisive. Li Yun felt a pang of shame. He wasn't as resolute and decisive as Zhang Chu had described. He had actually cultivated the reversal of fate technique. However, this matter obviously couldn't be mentioned, and not a single word could be omitted. He then pretended to be nonchalant and said, What's the big deal? If you know it's harmful, why keep it if you don't burn it? Are you just asking to get burned? That makes sense. So what's next, boss? What are you planning to do? Zhang Chu didn't think there was anything wrong with it, but since it was already burned, he didn't dwell on it anymore. Instead, he became concerned about Li Yun's plans. I'm going to see Elder Zhang Kong. What about you? Didn't you say that Elder Zhang Kong has to call you uncle? Do you want to come along? Go see Zhang Kong. Let's go together. Zhang Chu chuckled and said, Perfect timing. Thanks to the boss, my stance training is almost complete. I'll go ask Zhang Kong for a reward too. Then let's go. Then, the two left the grove and walked towards Cang Yun residence, chatting and laughing all the way. At the same time, on a small path outside the gate, Gu Yunzhang, accompanied by 2 slightly older youths, watched Li Yun and Zhang Chu from a distance. Gu Yunzhang's eyes were somewhat sinister. Cousin, it's him. That guy is Li Yun. I hope you can help me think of a way to teach him a lesson and make sure he gets kicked out of the Tianwu sect. After this is accomplished, I will surely reward you handsomely. Chapter 20 Zhang Kong, I think you've never seen a real genius. Gu Yunzhang's cousin is He Tingfeng, and Su Yaowu is with him. Both of them were outer disciples of the C-77 Academy. As outer disciples, the 3 academies of A, B, and C have all been in the outer sect for 3 years. At this point, one either needs to reverse one's innate abilities to enter the inner sect, or rank among the top 1,000 in the grand competition after 3 years to qualify for a 2-year term as a steward. Otherwise, one must leave after 3 years. However, whether they try to defy their innate abilities or make it into the top 1,000 in the competition, their chances are slim, practically zero. It could be said that both of them were pitiful victims left behind by the chaotic aftermath of the outer sect disciples' misfortune. However pitiful they may be, the two of them had already cultivated for 2 years and reached the 9th level of body tempering. The two of them didn't take Li Yun, whom Gu Yunzhang mentioned, seriously at all. If someone who has cultivated for 2 years still can't handle a mere outer disciple who has only been a disciple for a little over a month, wouldn't that make them a laughingstock? The only thing the two were worried about was the sect rules and what Gu Yunzhang said about Li Yun possibly having an inner sect background and possibly knowing a certain inner sect disciple. Having spent 2 years in the Tianwu sect, they knew very well what was going on. The Heavenly Martial sect recruits so many new outer disciples every year, and there are definitely many hidden talents among them, either with extraordinary talent or with all sorts of connections and backgrounds. The latter is undoubtedly the most terrifying. Even those with extraordinary talent need time to grow, but as long as they haven't fully matured, they pose no threat. Having connections and a background makes all the difference. If you offend the wrong person, the trouble can be enormous. However, after thinking about it, He Tingfeng and Su Yaowu still felt that it wasn't a big problem. It's just that he seems to have an insider background. It's nothing serious. To be honest, they've been in the Tianwu sect for 2 years, and through various opportunities, they've gotten to know several inner disciples. If a problem were to arise, they might be able to ask an inner disciple to help mediate. However, these are all last resorts. Asking someone to speak on your behalf costs money. You can't just ask them to endorse you without any real commitment. Unless absolutely necessary. He Tingfeng had no intention of asking an inner disciple for help. They planned to take a more prudent approach to deal with Li Yun, which was to use a covert strategy. Since Li Yun doesn't know them, they only need to disguise themselves slightly and find an opportunity to teach Li Yun a painful lesson. All right, we understand the situation and have acknowledged the person. You can go back now. We'll come looking for you once we've dealt with him. However, you must not mention this to anyone else, otherwise all 3 of us will be finished. You have only recently joined the sect and have not yet fully grasped the meaning of the rules of the Heavenly Martial sect. If the punishment hall finds evidence against you, even a true disciple has to go to the punishment hall, understand? Gu Yunzhang nodded quickly. I understand, cousin, don't worry, I'm not that stupid. Immediately, Gu Yun turned and left. As he left, he glanced at Li Yun from afar, a cold smile playing on his lips. Li Yun, so what if you have an inner sect background? So what if you're proficient in stance training? You dare to offend me, Gu Yunzhang. I have plenty of ways to make sure you can't stand firm in the Tianwu sect. After Gu Yunzhang left, He Tingfeng and Su Yaowu did not immediately take action. Although they were young, they weren't fools. In broad daylight, you'd be cornered and start a fight with an outer disciple. If you're not careful and get caught by the patrolling disciples of the punishment hall, you'd be skinned alive. They simply kept a close eye on Li Yun and Zhang Chu from a distance, pretending to chat as they followed behind, looking for a more suitable opportunity to make a move. Until they saw Li Yun and Zhang Chu walk into Cang Yun residence. The two knew that there might not be a chance today. Blocking people near Cang Yun residence is simply asking for trouble. The two had no choice but to leave first. At Cang Yun residence, Li Yun met Zhang Kong again after 4 days. Zhang Kong was very surprised. But to his surprise, Li Yun actually came with Zhang Chu. His face was somewhat dark. Zhang Chu, what brings you here? What are you doing here? Zhang Chu snorted and walked over to sit down. Oh, as expected of an outer sect elder, you've got quite the airs. You don't even call me uncle anymore. You. Zhang Kong's face twitched violently, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. That's right. According to the seniority in the Zhang family, he should indeed call Zhang Chu his paternal uncle. But how old is Zhang Chu? He's only 16 this year, while he's already over 60. Moreover, this happened within the Tianwu sect, in front of other outer disciples. How can I bring myself to call him uncle? Zhang Chu, stop fooling around. This isn't home, this is the Tianwu sect. According to the sect rules, since you've come to the Tianwu sect, you should address me as elder. Li Yun, look at this old guy. He's actually trying to use the sect rules to pressure me. Zhang Chu looked dismissive and even tried to get Li Yun to speak up for him, but Li Yun didn't dare to ask. Did he not want to live anymore? Zhang Chu, stop messing around. I'm here on important business. Upon hearing this, Zhang Chu slapped his forehead and exclaimed, "Ah, right. The important matter I almost forgot." He, Zhang Kongno, Elder Zhang. I've heard that you promised to secretly pass on a martial art, and a qi and blood pill to Li Yun if he reaches proficiency in basic stance training within half a month, right? Now that Li Yun is here, don't try to renege on your promise. Let me tell you, my sister knows about this too. If you dare to renege, I'll tell my sister and see if you still have the nerve to do it. Zhang Kong's expression changed immediately upon hearing this. Zhang Chu is still young and likes to fool around, so we can ignore him. But Zhang Ruohan is different. She is exceptionally talented and has already become an inner disciple of the Vermilion Bird Academy. Her cultivation is not much inferior to his. There's also the seniority factor that's holding them back. He really didn't dare to disrespect Zhang Ruohan. Li Yun, have you been to the inner sect? Reporting to the elder, this disciple did indeed go to the inner sect, thanks to senior sister Zhang's guidance. I have made great progress in my basic stance training these past few days. That's why this disciple dared to come and see you. Zhang Kungneng was no ordinary person. He had risen to the position of elder in the outer sect of the Tianwu sect. He immediately understood that Li Yun might have truly won Zhang Ruohan's favor. As for why I like it, that's not important. The important thing is that we have to give them face. In addition, he never intended to break his previous promise. He then laughed and said, "Not bad. You're quite lucky to have gained the favor and guidance of the inner sect senior sister. In that case, demonstrate the basic stance training for me again. If you can truly master it in just a few days, then I can fulfill my promise to you today. A martial arts technique, 2 qi and blood pills, I can't do without you." Li Yun nodded. Yes. Then they prepared to get into position. Wait. Zhang Chu suddenly jumped out again. Zhang Kong, you're underestimating people too much. What do you mean by reaching a proficient level in just a few days? I think you've never seen a real genius. I'm telling you, Zhang Kong. To reward a peerless genius like my boss Li Yun with just a martial arts technique and 2 qi and blood pills is simply an insult.